YouTube. Hello, YouTube. So I was ranting about this before. I guess I could just rant about it again because I'm so incensed by this stupid thing. What do you call it? The MIDI thing. I got it working. I can hit notes and the notes will change the voltage. Right? I think it drops out if I go too high here. No, it seems to be in decent. It doesn't quite. When it gets up to C5, the 5th octave C, it kind of messes up. So if I go down here to 3rd octave C is 3 volts. So there it is, sitting right on almost incredibly precisely 3 volts. This one is 2 volts. This one is 3. Here are the notes in between. Doot, 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 doot. Right? Okay, fine. So that keyboard works. So I have one singular voltage output, 1 note per volt from this thing, as well as a voltage level that represents the attack. The attack is just how quickly I'm hitting the key, so that if I put it into something like an ADSR, it'll sound like a key being pressed. It'll bonk and then, be gone. It won't just bonk, it won't just sustain the note the entire time. So that's pretty cool, right? I got to tell you how I got there, though, which is not really, it's not cool. Basically, in order to program in the different voltage levels, again, because this is a factory fresh IC, the Atmega 328, which I suspect Erica Synths is developing for using Arduino. You don't just see Atmega 328s all over the place powering everything all the time anymore these days. This is a discontinued piece of equipment, but I mean, to be fair, if I were to design a module from scratch, I would be starting with an Arduino just because I can throw code at it very quickly. What's up, Trey Pop? Ooh, cool. Yeah, I actually built something that works. Jeez. It had to be mostly digital and programmed by somebody else, but it does work. I was having a lot of trouble with it. I didn't know what was going on. When I was hitting keys, the voltage level would go up and down and all over the place. But it turns out it has... Okay, I got to turn this down in my headphones. I'm not wearing headphones. I don't know how loud that music is, barely there. I can turn that off for you guys so it's just as distracting to you as it is to me. So anyway, what it does is it has a calibration for every C note, and then it calculates sort of the in-between. It calculates it. So based on that calibration. Problem is, the only thing I had that can create MIDI messages is this keyboard right here. And so they have a scheme. Okay, this is too distracting. I gotta go to like a chill album or something. Search, how do I search internally in this godforsaken website? I guess I can scroll down until I see, that's Yacht Rock V2, barbecue mix, there we go. Actually, this one has a lot of rap songs in it, and it gets really distracting. Brad Robinson, Breakfast of Champions, there we go. We'll play that. It's going to start with their little Space Cowboys bump, though, because I am blatantly stealing music from a Burning Man music collective in order to give you these background noises. All right, so back to this thing. So what's the problem with this? Problem with this is that in order to calibrate it, you turn it on while holding down the program button, right? And so you turn it on while holding down the program button, and it goes into calibration mode. And so when you hit a C key, it will represent that C key as a voltage level. Hit any other keys, doesn't represent it. Any C key, it will represent as a voltage level. And so it uses those calibration points in order to calculate all those mid notes. So in order to adjust the calibration, this is an analog control. The slew rate is the rate at which it gets to the new voltage. And you can turn it way up and then it'll go meow. Or you can turn it way down and it'll go bap. So for calibration, I turn the slew rate all the way down, but this is an analog control. This is an analog control. There's no other inputs to this thing. I don't know what these are. There's no other inputs to this thing, right? So what you do is you plug in MIDI, right? And you hit the C key and it shows you what that C key is. Then in order to adjust the C key up and down, you use the 2 keys that are adjacent to C. This is a very sensitive piece of equipment, though. 1 note per octave, and this thing has 5 octaves. So those individual voltages are very important because it doesn't sound like E, right? Very little tiny deviations in voltage will get you out of tune. So when I hit the key above C, it goes tens of millivolts up, tens. I was working with the third decimal point that my scope can actually show. It was hell on earth because between, remember, this key and this key, that is an entire volt. We only have this many notes in between. It's like 0.8 of a volt represents each individual key getting up to C, each individual note. So I had, and by the way, this thing can go up to like 8 volts for these control voltages, up to 8 volts, maybe even 10. And I only have up to C5. So I had to go through all of the C notes from C-1 all the way up to C5. And I had to tap, 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 tippy tap those buttons over and over again to very, very slowly. It was basically like 1,000 would get me probably around halfway to the next volt. So I used both hands and I did this, and then I did this, and then I did this. I could crush coal into diamond with my fingers right now. It was an intense hand and arm workout, but I got it calibrated. Finally got this thing calibrated, and I could finally say, after way too much effort, which is the case with all of these modular synthesizer things, that I finally have a working module. This thing works, it's calibrated pretty nicely. I'm going to use it to calibrate other stuff. That was a pain in my butt. But this thing can move to the actual synthesizer. Before I do that, I would like to get the ADSR that I have and maybe, well, actually first I'll tune a VCO and then I'll tune an ADSR. And then I can see what it's like to play notes on the piano and have them actually represented as notes that you can hear. So that'll be pretty cool. How's everybody else's weekend? My Labor Day special was being locked down here, hitting a button while it's like gorgeous outside. Absolutely annoying. I thought about grabbing the RC car and racing it around outside, but I ended up going out with Willow for many, many walks where we just kind of stood in the weather like weirdos. Dog and man alike, just sitting there staring into nothing. I bought a Rivnut tool. That was an expensive thing to buy at this juncture. It was way more expensive than it should be, but what it does is threads into a nut and then pulls it backwards so that it crushes the outside casement, and that expands and rivets itself in. And I'm going to use it here. There's a Rivnut sitting on the thing over there. I don't know how to uninstall Rivnuts. It sounds like it's probably an incredibly annoying thing to do. So I haven't installed any, but that one is sitting on the little lip that it creates. Let me go get it. Let me go get it. Let me show it to you. It's a Rivnut. The tool is enormous, and I've seen these used sometimes in automotive stuff, but they're really, really nice. They're really nice if you're trying to build something with metal. This panel is a throwaway anyway, so it's totally up for grabs, which means I'm going to put my computer on it, and then I'm going to put it against the wall, and that'll create a wall-mounted computer. Because, very sadly, I don't need my big computer for LAN parties anymore. I can remote into the LAN party, the wall computer, in order to run heavier graphics stuff, and then lighter graphics stuff I can do just on my handheld. So this is a Rivnut. It's got some knurling in there. It's got some like little lines in it in order to keep it from spinning. But when you put it in the tool, you basically are pulling back on these deep threads all the way back here. They're all the way back there because this is the part that doesn't get its bejangles mangled when you pull on the threads closer into the Rivnut. So there's basically a thing that just pulls a threaded rod backwards. And so it rivets in this little cubby hole, this little hidey hole, this little threaded anus that you can then put a screw into. And so this is M4. They come in metric, although I don't see a lot of metric representation from something as dumb as this. Something as dumb and brute as this thing is, it's, you know, you do that in English-sized threads. But these are metric. I am going to make them M4, and the wall control thing is all English size. It's all inches and feet, right? Those spaces, those holes are spaced about an inch apart. So I'm going to use Rivnuts in there, and they'll be metric, and then I'll have metric bolts that'll hold on the 3D printed stuff that then holds onto the computer stuff. So if I do need to get in there and swap something or move something, I can take the bolts off of the front, and I won't have to get behind the wall panel. Although to be fair, if I'm doing anything with that computer, it's probably the whole computer probably needs to come down anyway. But I had troubles with our weird computer where it evaporate, like the water inside of the tubes evaporates. I guess that's the result of using the type of tubes that I used. And so I get like a big bubble junction at part of the computer, and it can't move water as quickly or efficiently or with the same volume that it did before because there's a big bubble in the way. So it would overheat. The fans would start ramping up and down and up and down and up and down, and then I'd have to take the whole computer and do the what is it, Lawnmower Man dance with it, where you're in like the thing that tilts all around from the 90s, and then get the bubble into the reservoir and then fill the air bubble in, displace the air bubble with water. It's a whole thing, and it was very, very annoying to deal with. I added like a port at the back, but that's not gonna solve my problem. So what I want to do is put the whole thing up on the wall. I want to use PETG tubes so that they're clear tubes again, and just spread out, make everything look real nice, and have it up on the wall, gathering dust, where there's a reservoir up at the top, right? Do you overclock? No, I don't see much purpose in it anymore. What I do is I hold on to hardware for a long, long time. And so water cooling is not the best thing to do these days anyway. You can just get an AIO that'll cool things off just fine and doesn't need as much maintenance. And then when you buy new hardware, you get a new one. Whatever. I water cool for fun. I think it's neat to have all of these mechanisms working on your computer. And so the purpose behind my water cooling is to have, I guess, a quiet computer in one sense, but in the other to have something weird. And then the third option is that I'd like it to last a long time. So having very few temperature swings, of having few big temperature swings is sort of a neat thing for me, because then I can have my hardware last an extremely long amount of time. Not have things actually die on me, which has happened. We used to overclock back in the days where we had to put a little pencil line across a capacitor on the AMD chips. Yeah, we used to water cool with that, and overclock, and we got way deep into the different settings for cooling and overclocking and RAM timing and blah, 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 blah. I don't see much purpose behind it anymore, though, because everything's been completely optimized. When you run that processor, it's kind of overclocking itself into being the best that it can be. We don't need scope probes today. Well, we might need scope probes today, but I'm going to put them away anyway. Put them in the drawer so they're not out and in the way. We got to do a little soldering at the beginning of today. And I'll need to find a little board that's supposed to go with this. Is there one here? No? Okay. This is going to be annoying. How's it going out there? Got Mumbles the Meek in chat. That's a hell of a name. Let's see, what do we got going on here? Used to overclock, but since good notebooks are more accessible, I don't even run a PC anymore. Wow. I cannot imagine gaming on a laptop unless I play silly little bullshit games. And I know like gaming laptops can do quite a bit these days, but it's still, I don't know. I love having a big ugly PC. Social stream. Where's my social stream blade? Oh, I'm gonna have to use the websites button. All right, set up web pages. You know, I didn't even notice, but it actually opens the web pages in Firefox. It does not open them in Chrome. Log in with Twitch. Here's the social stream, so I can get my... I didn't fully put my chats up. If YouTube has been talking, I haven't been seeing it. Let's pull up that chat. Why do I have a notification? What are you notifying me about, YouTube? 3 days ago, Madam You commented, hey. Right? Oh, was that from today? The lawn dogs from today. Good afternoon. Kind of watching the nut. Huh? Burger ladies in LA naked. What the fuck are you talking about? Okay. Whatever's going on in LA, I don't give a shit when I'm streaming. I'll say specifically when I'm streaming. If they're protesting, those people are righteous. They're awesome. But Why? Wow. Okay. My Twitch wants me to log in. I'm not going to do that. Oh, because I'm on the wrong machine. Oh, I'm on the wrong machine. Okay. Sorry. Hold on. Wrong browser window. One sec. I got to launch the web pages again. Where's that button? Web pages again. Sorry, YouTube. You guys are getting buried. Long Dog had a diatribe about whatever's going on in Long Dogsville, but I missed it. Wait, that's Streamlabs. I already got that up. Close this one. Then we go to, there's the social stream blade. Okay. I'm getting it together. Don't worry. I just need to get it together. I feel so disorganized lately. I don't know what it is. Something's in the air. It's making me disorganized. All right, there's that. Let's pop out chat. Okay, now we're ready to roll. Ready to roll. Yeah, I don't want to hear about police chases right now in streaming. I don't need to know. All right, what's this? Oh, with the laptop? I understand. I completely understand. It's just, notebooks are expensive and they get old quickly and you can't upgrade them. I enjoy doing the sort of, I guess you would consider it old school, sort of upgrading of my stuff and being able to swap things out. Although lately when something breaks, things don't typically break. But like if I had RAM go bad, which has happened to me before while streaming, I've had a stick of RAM go bad that I actually had to go and get a new one. I had to go get a new thing of RAM for the stream computer. And unfortunately, there comes a time when that's like hardware gets really expensive. And the RAM was unfortunately in that realm. So I had to get a whole new motherboard for the streaming computer. I don't know. I guess it's good that I did. We're not going to necessarily use the oscilloscope today. I have it up for the intro. Anyway, so I've had to swap parts out on this motherboard before for the stream computer. So in that light, getting something like a laptop would probably be a bad idea. I'm swapping hard drives and stuff on it. So for me, desktops kind of fill that role. And I don't have any money. I don't have money to spend on things. So I enjoy my very long-lived desktops. I do understand completely what you're saying about laptops. You can carry them around and work wherever you want. That would be nice. I know my mother has an all-in-one system, and she really should have a laptop because then she can carry it all around. But instead, she decided to get another all-in-one. So it's basically a screen with a keyboard. Oh man, hold on. I have been talking about nothing for a steady amount of time, huh? When did that mute? I don't understand when that muted. Where did I don't know what I was saying. The water that I drank was old. It tasted awful. Probably full of sodium too, because it was seltzer. Yeah, desktops are great. I don't have much use for laptops. The laptop is sitting over there on the brewing table for Julian and Dave whenever I can clean up and get myself kind of out of these doldrums that I've been in this summer. This summer's heat wave kind of put me in a stink, and I think maybe a little bit of it is burning out. I have these sort of drive-bys with burning out where either I'll miss a bunch of days of streaming or I just won't do anything. It's incredible executive meltdown, and I've been going through that lately with cleaning up this place. I made some strides in cleaning, and I'm still getting there. I'm getting there steadily. We're going to work our way around here. Maybe I'll split off the entire rack mount and do that. That's going to take more than a couple days. I might miss a stream when I do that. So I've got to kind of plan around it. And then sort the cables out, and maybe even just get the back and front back onto this machine, back onto the stack of rack equipment, so that it can stay out of the dust. That was the original, the inception of that rack, was to keep out dust. The stream computer looks like it could use a little bit of water too. Too many things. I get kind of overwhelmed by it, but we'll make bits of progress as we go. Today we're going to do a little bit that's going to actually further burn the subs, so that'll be pretty nice. Last Miles has raided the party of 69. Nice. Hey, thank you for the raid. Is this thing on? This should show raids, right? I thought I hooked it up to do that. It should go like orange or something. Did I? Oh, I unplugged it. I unplugged my light. My warning light. My warning light is fallen. It's fallen. If you guys remember last stream, I don't. If you remember last stream, I worked on the MIDI adapter. That's why we have this up on screen. Hold on. Bah! There we go. I worked on the MIDI adapter for my rack mount modular synthesizer. Well, not rack mount, my modular synthesizer. All the geeks, what's up, nerds? Hello from Dennis. And you have a 69 emote. What up? How's everybody doing? We're just starting out here. I put on a little music, and then I talk to the people in stream, the people who are trickling in during the beginning of stream, and then I invariably get a question: if the stream starts soon, why is stream start soon up on the stream start soon? And it's always like a record scratch moment. It's like, what do you think other streamers are doing when they have like a countdown timer? They're just sitting at their desks. Anyway, so over the weekend, I finally got this thing working. So this is sending MIDI messages over to this thing in my modular synthesizer, this module in my modulating synthesizer. So this module, which I don't know if the yellow LEDs work, I think they're broken. But anyway, this modular synthesizer creates, I wanted a way to hit a keyboard button and have it create sounds, because that's less repetitious than just sending something that's going on a sequence, like a sequencer would. So I bought this MIDI adapter from Erica Synths. Now they give you the circuit boards, and they give you the processor, and they don't give you anything else. So I had to do some pretty intense part hunting to find a dual potentiometer in the Alps style. I had to go through a company that, I forget their name now. Damn it. I forget the company's name, but I had to go through a company that was for like kits of parts, and it felt a little shady. There's like an operation in Malaysia. It's like a drop shipping kind of thing. But I was able to get very cheaply these potentiometers sent to me from overseas to here very quickly, actually. It only took a day or two. I don't do stream starting soon. I just leave an empty chair so people can figure out for themselves. See, but the thing is, I'm not an empty chair. I'm sitting here setting stuff up. So as long as I'm sitting here setting stuff up, I might as well be distracted and talk to you guys. Otherwise, I can't quiet the voices in my head. But it, like, people just don't get it. I know a couple streamers that do this. I don't know why it's such a revolutionary thing, but I always get questions about it. Anyway, this thing works, and the way that I got it working was by calibrating it. There were no huge issues with the soldering because I'm awesome and infallible. I put this thing together perfectly. What's up, Corex? I put this thing together perfectly and without fail, and everything was awesome and amazing. I actually went over all the soldering quite a bit over the weekend. I had to go over the soldering like 2 or 3 times to make sure that I was definitely soldered in correctly. Now, the thing is, with electronics components, nothing is... You need to raid the kitchen. All right, go raid. Do what you got to do, man. You got no obligations. Last Miles is awesome. Everybody should check him out. Most of the people I'm saying that to came from that stream in the first place. So, okay. So anyway, the thing is, you get sent just the processor. You have to provide all of your own parts. Now, depending on how much money you want to spend building something from scratch, your parts, your resistors, your capacitors, and all the things that sort of define the transfer function of the op amps in this thing are statistical probabilities. You're a factory and you make resistors. You don't have the ability, you can tune the resistors, right? You can include more or less of the conductive powder or whatever it is that you're sintering into the resistor core material. You can include more, you can include less, and that will swing your resistors to and fro, whatever. But you're trying to actually make money, so you do this cheaply. And when you do it cheaply, it's not as controlled. Even if you put a whole lot of control into that process, you're not going to make same value, exact value resistors all the time. So you say they have a 5% tolerance or they have a 1% tolerance. You can get a 0.01% tolerance. If you're making equipment that's supposed to measure other measuring equipment, you do like a 0.001 tolerance. That increases the price of your basic parts. So for the most part, for like digital signals and stuff, you do not have to worry about the 5% parts. They'll do just fine. For analog signals, it's a little bit more important. But if you really want to save money, you put the parts in there, and as long as the parts are consistent and they work about the same way, you're going to get about the same results out, and then you can digitally tune your equipment. So that's what they do for this MIDI thing. I put in my 5% resistors. They probably should have been 1%. I do happen to have 1%, but I put in 5% and the chip was uncalibrated. We have one note per octave. This is C3. This is C4. Oh no, that's C3. This is C2. This is C3, right? C2, C3. We can see it moves 1 volt. Modular synthesizers. It may be a standardization. For MIDI note 60, aka C4, the resulting output voltage for the following devices is Moog Mother 32, 0 volts. Kenton MIDI to CV converter. Current 2 volts. For C4, 2 volts. Mutable Instruments, which is what I'm basically basing all of my analog knowledge off of. Mutable Instruments was the giant's back that I leapt from in order to reach the heights that I'm at. 2 volts. Doepfer, 3 volts. MST MIDI to CV, 2 volts. This is for C4. Roland SXB1, 3 volts. Blah, 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 mini brute, micro brute, beta step, and key step, 4 volts. That's what I used. So my C4 is 4 volts because C of N is equal to N. The problem is the Erica synths. Oh yeah, and by the way, if I look at others, it's like C2 is 1 volt, that's -1. Or the AS3340, which I have, C1 is 0 volts, C2 is 1 volt. It's all over the place. So what Erica Synths built into this thing is a way to use its only input, its digital input on the MIDI cable, to calibrate the machine. So I turned it on with the program thing pressed. The light blinks. I hit any C note. So if I hit C3 here, that thing would come up to default, sometimes at 5 volts, sometimes at 0 volts, sometimes at some random ass mid-range voltage. It turns out, in order to adjust the voltage, because again, you have this C note and you have this C note. They are an octave apart, and apparently a 0.8, not 0.8, 0.08, 0.088 millivolts per note, because you only have a couple notes in between the two parts of the octave. At least on a piano. Now there's an infinite slide between the 2 volts to create all kinds of weird semitones and annoying things. But so 1 volt between these. So what you do is you hit the C key, and then the 2 adjacent keys to that C key move the voltage up or down. But because it's so sensitive, 0.08, 80 millivolts being such a big deal, and you really want to get those right because those notes are musical, so I had to press this button or this button thousands of times over the weekend. I sat here doing this, and I also did it with two fingies in order to move those notes to be where they should. So if I want to adjust so that I have something more akin to the MST MIDI to CV converter, I need to move those C notes and press that button thousands of times. That's not 10. The next time I do something like that, if I decide to change it, because Julian will come in. Julian's my buddy who produces music. He's the guy with all the tattoos that always wears black. Good friend of mine since high school. He's awesome. I think we almost dated the same chick. Anyway, he comes in here. He's all abuzz and being all not introverted, and will come up to that thing and go beep 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 and go, it's wrong. And he'll say, you need to adjust it to be this. It's like, oh, okay. That's not where C should be. Everybody puts C here. Everybody puts C in this different location. And only this one location. And I'm like, what about this? Like, so I think the next time I do it, what I'll do is I will spin off. First of all, I will simply crash out. But second of all, I am not going to hit that button thousands of times. What I'll do is I'll set up an Arduino and use just on a breadboard circuit and use this guy right here that I had the whole time. I had this the whole time and I could have just used it. And I probably should have, instead of hitting that button thousands of times, plug this thing, the F in, and actually use this MIDI adapter on the breadboard in order to send it thousands of MIDI messages for the different keys. I can hook 3 buttons up to this thing. One of them can be the next C note, acknowledge, like MIDI message, and then down and up. And then the one button to one side can be down and up on the up key, and then the other one can be down and up on the down key. And what I can do is make it so that I can hold the button down, because this thing, I tried many times. You can't hold the button down and have it ramp up the speed that it goes. That's a very important thing in microcontrollers. In microcontrollers, if you have a user that's scrolling through a list one item at a time, you want to basically time in between. This is something a boss of mine told me about. Now we need to make a robotic. I was the whole listen. I was sitting there looking at a voltage level doing this, right? And so the mind wanders. I actually exercised every single finger, even though it's a wrist movement sometimes. And I tried doing this, right? My pinky finger needs to get a little bit stronger so that it can operate the keyboard on its own. But anyway, so during that time, the mind wanders. And so I thought of every kind of iteration of a robotic hand that could hit that button. You know, the thing in The Simpsons where it was the bird that dips into the water. So many times hitting that key, and I was like, I could get test leads and I can hook them up, and then I can have a relay go. Now, the best way to do it is just digitally send it the signal that it wants, and so that would be very simple to do with an Arduino. You just Arduino in there, get a MIDI library, get a list of your C notes, and then iterate through that list with the 2 controls up and down, so that if you hold it down, you can ramp up the speed at which it's sending those, or you could just have it send messages while you're pushing the button, have that be your course, and then you can unplug it and plug it into the keyboard for your fine adjustment. I just didn't want to make a whole piece of hardware and programming that's dedicated to calibrating this stupid thing. I'm not Erica Synths. If I was Erica Synths, I would get voltage reference chips and then have an Arduino where I tune it to listen to, on its analog inputs, listen to those voltage references and calibrate itself, then send MIDI messages until it calibrates the external thing. So you can just plug it in and hit go, and then it'll eventually green light and you're done. That's what I would do. I'd fully automate it completely. We don't need to really do that. I could just watch the oscilloscope and use a couple buttons to make a device. But that's, again, like, how long is that going to take me to build? That probably would have taken an entire afternoon in and of itself, because you could see as I was talking about it, I'm thinking about all these features. Features like the one that my boss told me about when I was working on, I guess, audio electronics job. I wish I knew what I knew now then, because I would have been a superstar at that job. I would have gotten hired on their engineering team at this point. But I was an intern. I was a college intern, just kind of learning the ropes of office work, right? And so one of the things my boss told me about is when he was working for, it might have been for Creative Labs, I don't know. He was building a keyboard with a whole bunch of voices in it, like a big voice bank. Because those voice banks are just getting bigger and bigger, and they're just kind of loaded onto the next piece of equipment, right? Used to be you would buy something for the voices that it had. Now you can just download voices, but then you would buy something for all the voices it had. You plug that into like Monkey Island, and suddenly it's a symphony, and everything sounds amazing, right? You get better audio out of your very, not crappy, but your MIDI-based games with a big bank, right? It used to cost hundreds of dollars. Well, anyway, he was working on one, and so the user would have to scroll through all of these different voices that you could assign. And you have to scroll through it. And so you go one at a time, and it would take a year to get to the other side of the list. So what he did is he actually timed the regrip time. So you flick the knob, let go, back it up, flick the knob again. Back up, flick the knob, back up, flick the knob. Can you stop doing that? Flick the knob, flick the knob. And the time in between flicks is going to advance you faster and faster through the voice bank. So if you were going zoop, 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 you would have a literal variable. What's up? Swizzle Circuit, that's a good name. Yeah, Monkey Island. Anyway, you'd scroll faster and faster. It would start ramping you quickerlier and quickerlier through the list. Pretty cool. Saw a video the other day of a guy using an MT32 for an old LucasArts game. Crazy how much better it sounds. Yeah, it's incredible, actually. I never knew about this. And I was living in it. Probably because we were using Macintoshes and I didn't have all the good games back then in the early 90s, late 80s. I was living in it and I didn't even know about that. But yeah, I saw a similar video and it's like when you plug in, you don't need a full calibration suite unless you're paid by the company. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, the regrip timer is something that is lacking from the calibration procedure of this one. They could have had it so that if the button is held down for a certain amount of time, it'll start very quickly cycling through the variables. Because this was uncalibrated when I got to like C5. C5 was at 0 volts. And so I had to go 5 volts up, adjusting it. Every single key press was something like 10 millivolts. I mean, I could sit there going like this and watch it counting up in the tens, and then every now and then the hundreds. It was hell. It was hell. It took me hours of just sitting there bopping the key. And while that's all great for like my strength training on my arms so that I can crush people like into dust by shaking their hands. Oh, I cramped up there a little bit actually. It's really hell to have to adjust things. But yeah, obviously that's sort of the module tester is supposed to be that sort of a thing that I can do. Like I could get in the code and I could have it output specific stuff in like at the press of a button. I could reprogram it to do that. I don't have it hooked up to MIDI right now, but it would have been fascinating to create something with voltage references. But now that that's done. So I don't really need to worry about it. If I need to adjust it to be one of these other standards, C note minus 1 volt per octave, then I can make something like that. I'll have to actually venture into that and spend an afternoon. It's actually, doing stuff like that with the Arduino is actually a lot of fun, just because you can just move very quickly through your code and you can make stuff happen in the real world. It's very fascinating and fun. We're going to do a different level of that. We are going to be using a Raspberry Pi, and we are going to get this screen working with I2C, and then we'll work on this LED screen. We'll do that. I'll get started in just a bit here. Just trying to gird my loins and actually work. You can also the the stuff that I programmed the module tester with is not the same standard. See, this is saying C2 is 1 volt, which would mean C4 is 3 volts. Yeah, C4 would be 3 volts, and so that puts it in the Roland, Pittsburgh MIDI 3, etc. This is not a comprehensive list of devices, it's just a couple, but I mean, everybody's different. In order to utilize more of the keyboard that I have within the scheme that I have, I should be doing C-2, so that C-2 is 0, and C5 is 3 volts? That doesn't utilize the whole thing. But it would be from 0 to whatever the highest one is. So 5 could be 7 volts if I really wanted it to be. That would be the C2 is 1 volt, I think. Saw a video. Oh, yeah, I already read that one. I already read that. I'm caught up on chat. Yeah, we'll start in just a minute. This is 8Ball on what's called the Ripecast, which is a Burning Man music collective, and they have a Unimog that they drive out into the middle of the desert. You basically look for orange on the horizon and head towards it. When you get there, it's a party. And they do kind of pop stuff a lot of the time, which is where I'm listening to it because I'm not looking for a whole meal out of my music. I want something in the background that I don't have to pay attention to. And while this isn't really that much background music, it is kind of, it's club music. So it helps me concentrate. But then every now and then you get the Jackson 5. You guys probably can barely hear it, but it's just intro music while we let people gather ahead of stream so that everybody isn't asking what we're doing today all at the same, whenever they enter. That won't prevent people from doing that, but you get it less when you do an intro. You get it a little less, and I can sit here and kind of set the mood for myself while we start out. It has been approximately an hour though, and that's too long for an intro. So let's get started. Oh, I got rivet nut tool. Rivet nuts are awesome. Good old house music, yeah. How do you know it's house music? They'll tell you. They'll eventually say it 1,000 times usually. I got a riv nut tool. I'm a real boy now. The riv nuts, the M4 riv nut that I'm holding here. Hey, Madamew, what's going on? Is conveniently sized for this wall control board. So everywhere there's a circular hole, I will be literally anywhere I find a circular hole, I can put a nut on it. Yeah, these are great. I don't know how to uninstall them. I think that's going to be stressful. Probably a Dremel is the best way to uninstall something like that. I wouldn't know. So I want to be careful. We'll want to plan this whole thing with CAD. But they're really cool. They're very, very clean looking. These are zinc coated steel, so they might rust. But overall, what I'll be able to do is use M4 riv nuts on the whole thing. I just bought a big bag of them. And we'll be able to have all of the equipment that takes up the wall computer mount from the front. So I don't have to actually get like a bolt and a thing in there. It'll just be, you know, the fixed holes that we have, we'll put riv nuts in, and then I can screw stuff onto the wall control board on the wall, and I can do them individually, and then the wall control board will hold everything at once. It's a whole thing. It'll be great. But then I don't know if that's going to totally work that way, because if I need to change anything on that computer, getting in from behind is the least of my troubles. I'd probably have to take the whole thing down and move it over to the table, and yeah. I need to get me a tool and a little set of nuts. Yeah, it's convenient to have. The only thing is they're like so permanent. This one song that I listen to that just says it's all about house music. House music. Yeah, they'll just tell you that you're listening to house music. So anyway, all right, one success for another. Let's get this out of here. Which the button that does that? Setup. Start soon. I have to turn off the scope myself. And then, because we're not using the scope today, and then I'm going to fade out the oh, no, I just hit pause on it. I hit pause on it and it doesn't fade out. Oh, well. Hi, welcome to Twitch's Oh Bother, the not very popular streamer that gets emails in the middle of the night about botting on the channel. So all of you bots, we're going to replace with new bots. We're going to get paid bots on this channel. And so after Twitch's botting crackdown, we'll just get some new bots, and then my channel will just be all robots. That's why nobody ever says anything in chat, is because they're all bots. My content is not popular, nobody watches it, and I'm not charismatic or cool. Also, I don't have dick butt on a circuit board. I don't have that. That's not what this is. Okay, anyway. Yeah, look at these bots. Jesus Christ. Terrible. This channel bans bots because bots still count as views if you ban them. You just don't have to deal with their bullshit. If we get a bot, I will just hit ban, but then it still apparently chat is pitted against chat now. They're all arguing amongst their own botted selves. I can't believe it. I just, you know, hey, your channel hasn't done anything for 6 years. Do you want more viewers? Ugh. Select from messages. Yeah, so anyway, no bots here. Everybody's real. We're all real, especially me. Not all of us are bots. No, you're all bots. Anyway, welcome. This is my shop. This is where I do stuff occasionally. No, you definitely are. So listen, we gotta do stuff in relation to, what was that noise, by the way? Oh, it's a spring inside of here when I hit the table. Wait for AI bots to take hold. I would like to have one bot. The one that's similar to what Milton T. Pike 1 and his brother have, which is a neural network bot. It's not quite, well, it's a little bit AI, but it uses a neural network to put together things people have said in chat and make a phrase, and it'll say stuff that's totally inane, but we're not talking as much, and so the things the neural bot would say would probably not be as inane and funny on my channel. But it would be neat to hook it up to something like this that I could then animate saying stuff. Write a rap song about the 555 timer. I've got 99 problems, but 99 minus 555 isn't one. Anyway, I hate the 555. I hate it. I hate it. I dislike the 555. It's something that chat can't really reconcile, is that somebody would dislike something like a timing chip that is completely and utterly usurped by digital electronics, because you can get an Arduino, you can learn how to program an Arduino. I know that's not in the same direction as flashing an LED. You can make the Arduino flash the LED, and now you know how to program an Arduino instead of knowing how to run an equation so that your capacitors discharge at the right timing, because that's totally freaking useless to do. It's a whole bunch of expenditure of effort and energy into something that is just not really going to benefit you all that well. You can learn capacitors in another part of a project. You can make a Sallen key filter and learn how to get the right capacitance for that instead of using a 555 timer. People have made 555 timers do everything because it is sort of a meme and an iconic chip, and it's not cool. Stop it. The 555 is well and truly dead. It's dead along with the 7400 series of logic chips. They are fun to use every now and then for a mental exercise, but they're dead. Use an Arduino, learn digital electronics. The horizons are greater. That's my rant on the 555. Anyway, yeah, we're not doing anything with any of that stuff. We are actually going to be programming a Raspberry Pi in order to run the screen that we already got it to run. If you remember last time, we hooked up this Noritake Noritake-tron. Welcome to my North American stream where I act like a European person trying to do a North American accent. Anyway, Noritake-tron makes this wonderful VFD display. This is an eBay special because it's the best place to get them. What up, Haystack? Hell yeah, we're so back. Yeah, so, but can a 555 run Doom? Probably somebody's already done that. Everybody tries to do that. I don't care. So anyway, we're still on this screen. Last time we figured out what the pinout was, and we kind of hooked it up, and we got the Raspberry Pi to actually display stuff in German on the screen, because that's just the example code we found. That's kind of annoying, especially the translating from German part. So this screen works, but it's a pain in the butt to hook up. And I could do a whole wiring harness to get it into the Raspberry Pi, but it's taking up a lot of pins on the Pi too. The Pi has tons of pins to talk in and out of, but it's nice to be a little bit more efficient on the pins. So what I want to do is get that screen running, but get it running using I2C. I2C is integrated circuit communication. It's a digital standard for messaging between chips, and it's pretty fast. It's pretty fast. It's like 15 kb or something. Fast enough for our purposes, and so we can just use 4 wires to hook up our entire screen and communicate it to it through a library, through just like a Raspberry Pi library that'll speak I2C. Couple things between here and there is to figure out, oh, we still have the scope up. Hold on, get the scope out of here. Frameless scope, bop. Okay, we got a couple things to figure out between here and there. They were not kind to us, and they did not give us what this pinout is. They expect us to just plug this into one of your basic LCD modules somehow, which I think I have one of. We want you to just plug it in to whatever this big header is over here and somehow have enough pins and have them all working properly. So we need to get information on this board. We need to get information on what the pinout to one of these screens is, and then we need to basically smash them together until we make a baby. Yeah, see, it's meant to just like plug into one of these, either on the front or the back. I don't know which side. So I'll have to figure out how to get that all together. Now, I've used these boards before. I used it in the Brew controller. Yeah, how salacious. I've used them in the Brew controller, and I know they work, but we just need to get a pinout out of the thing. All right, so, oh yeah, this was, I've complained about this multiple times before. This is the MIDI to control voltage, the MIDI to 1 volt per octave note, and they say C4, MIDI note 60, has all these different voltages associated with it, and in order to adjust the note, I need to go into a programming mode on this thing, and then I need to adjust in millivolt increments. So if it's off by a note, I have to press that thing nigh on 1,000 times to move from volt to volt. I need to make a device that'll do that if I ever need to do it again. So this thing works though. We actually finished something. It took me an entire afternoon pressing a button repeatedly in order to get it working, but I got it working. And at some point, maybe I'll have to calibrate it again. Anyway, so we need information on this I2C. So LCD, parallel LCD to I2C pinout from the Arduino forum. Ah, and there it is. In not a lot of pixels, but at least we kind of get an idea of what's going on here. Wait a minute, how does that thing want to plug in? So I guess any which way, but the this thing goes towards the outside. The problem is our LCD has a different pinout. Ours is a 2-row header. And so what I'll do is I'll double-sided tape that board to the back here, and we'll just run wires over to the connector. So let's, I guess, start with this and just get all these pins out of here. We need to remove this entire header, and hopefully without damaging anything. How do I get this out without damaging? I could use ChipQuick. These are not in good shape because these boards are old. The screen is very old, and this is very gross. When in doubt, press the button harder. It didn't matter how hard I pressed the button, and it didn't matter if I held down the button. The thing I wonder, though, is if this thing will natively do I2C. If I could change these jumpers, maybe it would do natively. I don't know. Every time I look up these boards that I have, until I use them all up, I realize that they are very old, very, very old, and may not have the features that the newer ones have. These are cool though, if you really want that like rugged display panel on your machine. One sec here, I gotta mute. Yeah, I mean, I guess I could, if I had solid wire that was large enough, I could drop a wire in the middle of this thing and just make sure that it all flows over at the same time and then pluck this thing out. With ChipQuick, I'll just put a glob of ChipQuick on it and run back and forth until this falls out, because it will just fall out when it reaches temperature with ChipQuick. I'm using ChipQuick because I want to be really kind to the pads on this thing. The pads are going away. They've been reworked too many times. This would be the last time I have to rework it though, and we'll have an I2C plug that'll plug into this from the rest to burn the subs. This is ChipQuick. This is a particular alloy of solder and stuff, probably bismuth, I think they were calling it. And what it is designed to do is hold its liquid state longer than typical solder. And so when you use ChipQuick, it's like, all right, I got to remove this surface mount thing. So let's put a little ChipQuick here on these pins, ChipQuick on these pins, a little bit on these pins, and a little bit on these pins, and then it falls out, because that initial ChipQuick is still molten. So I'm just going to drop a bar of it here, and this is, the problem is ChipQuick is expensive, so I'm putting the rest of it away. It's expensive. Like this thing was $35. I guess it might have been more than $35. There's a lot of it in here. It's not priced like solder. Pin thermite. No. It's not thermite. It is just an alloy that is more lower temperature liquid. Yes, I'm taking everything too seriously, sorry. Taking everything too seriously. Welcome to streaming, where nuance and sarcasm is dead. In text, anyway. All right, so where's, there it is. Okay, so ChipQuick on the pins. All I have to do is just go over the pins. My iron very quickly gets hot. I'm not going to change tips, although the wider tip would probably be pretty good here. This is probably too much ChipQuick. I probably could have gotten away with much less. And just make sure to work every pin and get that stuff in there. Maybe focus the camera a little, you know, the bare minimum of production. Really let it get in there. All right, I don't have anything putting pressure on the other side, so I probably could use something. I'm going to add a little solder to this, just for more volume. More volume and a little bit of the flux inside. What, like they do for like they do for railroad tracks. You put a little cup of thermite on your solder joint. Come on now. I could add a little bit. It's not even that old. I think I recently put the header on this one. It's just nasty. And the Chipquik has its own like nasty flux. I think that's what the really dark stuff is. This is where like a sacrificial wire would maybe come in handy. Or old desolder braid I should hold on to for something like this, because that would actually be quite useful. Yeah, see, it's starting to just hold on with... Okay, so what I can do is if I go over it quickly... No, that didn't work. I need something to encourage it to overcome surface tension. And I guess slamming it down is probably bad for the VFD, huh? I also don't want to pull on it hard because I don't want to ruin the pads on the other side. That's why we're going through the trouble of using Chipquik. I really want to preserve those pads on the other side. I've had issues with Chipquik in the past where it's supposed to drip down and form a seal on the other side. Yeah, and I got to be careful that it doesn't lift the pads on the other side, because those pads are very fragile. It's probably acting as a heat sink on the other side. Yeah, these are squeaking. I can hear them moving. All right, so I'm going to have to pull with something, because it's not. These aren't overcoming their natural surface tension. So what I'll do is I'll just use my tweezers, and I'll just put that in there as a slight motivation to separate. To lift and separate. I do not know what I need to do this week. I have not prepared. Usually I've got a good idea of what I want to do. This isn't working. Why isn't this working? Chipquik usually does magic. Usually it's casting spells and doing crazy magic. More drinking alcohol. No, I actually need less drinking alcohol. I think I'm going to be sober this week. Your intrepid host's health is going to start going downhill if I keep drinking. It's stupid. It's a stupid thing. Ooh, it's starting to go. Not too much pressure. I want to preserve everything. This is definitely going to need a Q-tip. Just let go. Chipquik might have given us false confidence in this. That could be the horrible part. The solution and the cause to many problems. For me, it's boredom, which is really a stupid thing. So I just need to get over myself. Easy enough to do. I really dislike helping hands. I don't really need helping hands. I know this technique looks like it's failing, but we're actually getting ahead of it. But I dislike those little helping hands. I don't like them at all. Don't like them. It's personal preference. So this is just giving us a little tiny bit of pressure. And, you know, I could go to the big soldering iron if I wanted to. Just really get that heat in there. It's the drip down effect is really what's doing this right now. Hot air. I could pull out the hot air and try that. And then the technique that I should have used, the one that you typically use with something like this, is you pull the pins through the header. in order to release them. No congratulations. I never get congratulations. What's up, that your fan? That's not really doing anything, is it? There is just a big blob of Chipquik sitting under these pins, so I am trying to heat it through these pins. I guess I could probably go over here and do it this way. Well, I could also still use the pull-out technique. Let's get a pair of pliers. Just heat them individually and pull them out. I guess we'll try that. We'll do that now. I need to hold this thing vertically so that I can see both sides. I'm trying to remove the pins because we need to hook up the I2C adapter using these pins, and I don't want a pin header to be there. It can just be smooth. This technique invites pulling out the pads, which I don't enjoy. Actually, I can get to this side. So I want to put as little pressure as possible on this and just give it a little tug from the top here. And I want to hold that heat in for a long time. I want to make sure that the heat gets to all parts of the pad, both sides through the via, so that it comes away clean. What pin was that? Wait a minute. And it should just very gently pull out of the socket. Go. Especially with the Chipquik there. And we'll be able to clean up after the fact. That one was too much force. So you got a balancing act here between the amount of force that you put into it and how long you hold the heat in and how hot your iron is. I keep my iron at 666 degrees Fahrenheit. But that's not necessarily the right temperature, and especially if you're reworking, some people say, turn the iron way up. The problem with that is when you hold the heat there on the iron, when the temperature's too high, you risk delaminating the copper from the board. I would use braid. Braid is very annoying when you get to something like this because in the via, inside of the via, there can be just a little bit of surface tension solder, and it won't let go of something like this very easily. I find that to be the most doing braid on, especially on something like this. Braid will clean this up. That's what braid is there for. What's going on here? There you go. Not too much force. Tried OmniFixo helping hands. Uses magnets instead of wire springs, like most helping hands. Huh. That's interesting. I'm sure there are helping hands out there that everybody loves, but I just use this. I just use a little vise. Just use a little vise to hold on to them. I'm using these Knipex things because they're extremely good at grabbing things. They're a little bit overkill though. I could probably pull out the pin with tweezers, but this is just my latest technique. I'm gonna burn some of the plastic doing this. Can't get this up a little bit. No, it's pulling too hard. Pulling too hard. Too hard, too hard. I'll be very gentle with these pins. Coming in from this side is a mistake. I should probably come in from the other side or from the back side, but I'm just working too quickly. Not like we can preserve this thing anyway. One thing this technique will do is it will send little flutes of solder up into the plastic, and so the plastic might get attached a little bit too much to the board. You have to carefully remove the plastic, otherwise you risk your pads once again getting destroyed. Come on. That one did not go quietly. Yeah, so you can see the plastic's not coming with us. Oh, yes it is. Okay, cool. That gap must have helped us. All right, so that was not easy on those pads. They're all there, though. ChipQuick has done its job. So now we got to remove it. Solder sucker might be the best way to do this. Desoldering braid, of course, moves ChipQuick as well. It doesn't absorb into it as well, but... Stop being so critical of yourself. It's millennial humor. What am I supposed to be nice to myself? Pat myself on the back? Probably easier to do from this side. Even though I've stubbornly kept those headers in. Ah, that didn't work at all. Hold on. God, I could probably break somebody in half with my thumb at this point after all of the resetting of this solder sucker that I do. It keeps bouncing on the thing. Hold on, we gotta clear off below so I don't scratch my screen. It is glass, so it's actually fairly difficult to scratch. Just apply a little bit on this side of heat and really keep this thing in there. I will still use the desolder braid on it to try to get rid of as much of the ChipQuick as possible. I think ChipQuick is still conductive. Maybe not as conductive as solder, I'm not sure. Yeah, it's going to need a Q-tip. This one's starting to break a little bit. You can see it's a little weird looking. Ooh, ChipQuick is really fouling up this thing. It gets further up into the solder sucker because it remains liquid longer. Clean up, clean up, clean up. Blech. Yeah, see, that's what it does. It forms up on the sides. Why is that not? Huh. Weird looking. I guess it's all right. It looked like it didn't flow over. That was strange. Hey, what up, Keeper of Maps? Keeper, I don't know how involved you are in the TKF, the Knowledge Fellowship, but every single time I get a PM from somebody who is also in that server, it's some kind of a scam or somebody trying to get money out of me. I got messaged by somebody who wanted to put me in touch with someone who could get bots on my channel and I could make all this money off of it. Blech. Throw up in my mouth a little bit. Which is deceptive because when I get like a PM, I look at the information for the person and I'm like, this person is a lot more popular than me. And then I find out that they're trying to sell bot farms. Like, oh, I got duped by a fucking bot farm. Stupid. I think I'm on the server, but I don't know if I've ever posted anything in it. Yeah, same. Yeah, I am part of the Knowledge Fellowship of Twitch streamers that do cool smart boy stuff, smart people stuff. But you know, and that's kind of where we get ideas of where to raid people. The paleontologizing channel would probably be a good one for us to raid into at some point. They've been streaming a lot lately and they do good stuff. I don't really ever watch that though. But then again, I like shouty gaming streamers. I like my shouty gaming streamers. They're so much different from what I do. We should be more shouty. We should have more shouting going on. But then my dog would then chime in and start barking and you won the internet lottery. It hasn't quite gotten that bad. It hasn't quite gotten that bad, but the the last couple PMs that I've gotten, I've said, oh, they're in the Knowledge Fellowship. What do they want? And it's like, do you need art? I'm like, no, I don't need art. Not buying art. No thanks. I'll just steal more emotes from Google, the Google blobs. We're not quite done cleaning it up yet. I don't know if I really want to do desolder braid on this, but we should get rid of all of the gross flux that's all around it. I need to log always drunk rip. What? I don't shout, I rant and curse. Well, I use theater voice. I don't quite shout, but a long time ago, and I've complained about this before and I haven't gotten over it, I rated Djibouti Show, and the people watching my stream were so entitled, it just really got under my skin. They were doing a charity stream for St. Jude. They do one every year, right? And they make a lot of money for that hospital. It's really really philanthropic of them to do. And so they were doing their St. Jude stream, gathering, collecting money for charity from their very generous audience. There's a lot of good people in there. And then I raid in because I figure, hey, why don't I throw like 40 people at Djibouti Show, and maybe they'll be generous too, because it is a good cause. And so I do that, and then in comes one of the people, one of my regulars, has just the comments that this stream is too loud for me. And Justin saw that message and read it aloud and had a sour face, and I was crushed. I was crushed under the weight of the embarrassment that my own chat brought to that stream. So why am I reluctant to raid a lot of people? Well, there you go. That's it. Just an absolute absence of social awareness. What display? Oh, this thing is awesome. These are VFD displays. They're from Noritake e-tron, and I've bought a bunch historically. You can get them off like eBay for pretty cheap. If you buy them new from DigiKey, it's a more than a song and a dance to get one of these versus your very cheap LCDs. But these operate in the same way as the LCDs, only they are individual dots that are illuminated. Now you can do that with an OLED display these days. It's got that high contrast and everything to it, but this is a vacuum fluorescent display, so you get that old radio kind of vibe to it, right? And you can put it behind a completely smoked piece of glass so that you can't see through, and the letters will shine bright. I love these things. You're not responsible for other people's actions. I know. It's still embarrassing. You're still kind of like, come on. Just, Okay, we need to desolder this one now. This one's 1,001 pins. We'll clean them up in a minute, but those old-timey displays that have the distinct VFD smell. I probably know the smell. I don't have a particularly strong association. It's kind of like one of your kids throwing a temper tantrum at the mall. That is shameful, though. That's perfectly shameful and embarrassing. Let's actually do it this way, and then I can reverse this thing. So I can use the iron in my right hand. Wait, that wasn't the right. What the heck? Okay, there we go. So I can pull from this side. Yeah, I put them away. I put them back in the drawer. What's wrong with me? We'll use the same technique. If people don't understand the internet by now, and the number of people on Earth, let alone shill bots, etc., good luck. It's not up to you to educate the masses, but I appreciate the fact that you do. I would have used braid and destroyed the PCB. Yeah. Well, I do have one where I've lifted pads, so that's why I'm so careful. Those little curly leashes that people have for their kids. I don't know what this solder is. It might not be all that amenable. So what I should do here is just go over it with my own solder, because it might be using either unleaded solder or old unleaded solder, which is very annoying, or it could just be using, well, this thing could have existed for years until it was sold to me, and so the solder might be crystallizing a little bit and becoming a little bit less amenable to heat. And so the technique for dealing with that, especially with old electronics, is just to add a little tiny bit of your own solder, and that'll sort of wake it up and get the heat in there and produce a more leaded alloy than what was originally there, which will help you rip it out of its home without damaging anything. So I'm just bringing the little bit of rosin core, the heat, and the new solder material into this header. These pads look like they're unleaded, but then the pins of the PCF 8574, the chip over there, they look like they have lead in the solder. So I don't know what this has. I don't think a little add-on circuit board that you maybe sell one every 2 years gets the RoHS treatment. Solder can crystallize. It'll like harden and be less workable, especially in old electronics, like the really old stuff will harden and become less workable. So even though this stuff is a couple years old, you could see how sort of matte it was and dull. And so I came in here with the iron and sort of woke it up a little bit. You rework enough boards and you start to learn these kinds of things. I'm calling it crystallization. It might be some other mechanism. This will be better on this camera. It forms like an oxide layer that you have to break through, but you definitely do need to add fresh stuff. Okay, so it's like an oxidization. It's not a crystallization. There's a lead-free solder that can crystallize. I don't know, just a word for a thing. Thing happen, thing do happen. So thing help, thing unhappen. These have larger pads on the other side, so I'm going to want to apply heat for a bit longer before I pull. And actually grip the thing. The other thing that can happen is as you're pulling it out, if you pull the pin through its via and you're stuck on the other side and your heat doesn't hit it, then you can accidentally pull on the wrong side of the board with hardened solder, and that can also contribute to pulling out the pad on the other side. So you want to keep that heat on the via at all times. Just be careful with it. Kind of get a feel for it. And then you realize that you ripped out all the pads. Whoa, what was that? It felt crunchy at the end. Oh, it's just this thing losing grip on the smooth thing. Channel locks can put a lot of force into things, and I'm not really gripping them much. Oh, am I pulling on two at once? Yeah, I was pulling on two at once. Whew. I've ripped out the entire via before. Yikes. Yeah, when you look at it and there's like a little pad sitting on the pin and there's a little sheath around it and you're like, oh no. You know what you've done is unforgivable. What is going on with this one? Unforgivable, that's what you are. Huh. So that one went easy. Why don't you go easy? Oh, because I'm trying to pull it. Yeah, so it hardened on the other side, and it wasn't connected to the pad. So I've got what is essentially a rivet keeping me from pulling it through the plastic. I could do this too. Donk. All right, let's go to the other side. Hey. This is why I buy everything unsoldered. I should have bought it unsoldered, but I didn't. Don't ask why. I mean, this is like $5 for 3 of these boards, so. Yeah, if this were unsoldered, our wiring would be able to commence sooner. But I'm a streamer. I gotta get, you know, everything's gotta be drawn out. Jeez. Gotta draw the farts out. This is more satisfying. Maybe. Damn it. I keep torquing the board to the side because it's so far away from where I'm pulling. Wait, which one is it? Which one is you? God, this is getting annoying. This is getting annoying. I'm on the wrong pin. I'm on the wrong pin. Jeez. On the wrong pin, so I wasn't moving anywhere. Okay, almost there. Hey, this is better than tapping a singular key on that keyboard over and over again. Adjusting the voltage level. Calibrating. You know, that's why Garrus takes so long calibrating. It's because he's got to hit one button to move the voltage value a millivolt at a time until it hits the right spec. That's how the MIDI to CV converter adjusted, is by putting it into a calibration mode and then hitting a C key, and then the keys adjacent to the C key were 1 millivolt up and 1 millivolt down. It was probably like 5 or 6 millivolts, but still, I had to adjust these things to a steady voltage by pressing a singular key on the keyboard thousands of times, because they would be off by several volts instead of millivolts. This is content to me. I can watch this all day as a non-expert. Soldering is kind of cool. It's kind of neat to be able to manipulate liquid metal, hot liquid metal, in such a manner as to put together a circuit. I sort of can weld. I'm not a good welder. I think welding is completely awesome and fascinating, though. My own collection of farts. Streamer does not mean billable by the hour. I know. I wish I was. It's entertainment by the hour. We're going to use this because this is cheaper. This is ultimately the cheapest because I can rebuild this thing. And I have to clamp the circuit board slightly above this level, because if the soldering iron touches this metal here, it will become fused. No, I'm just kidding. This thing doesn't take solder. It will not allow it to solder, but it will heat up the vise. The vise will heat up with the soldering iron, and it'll suck away all of the heat. You know, soldering irons used to be something that you put on the stove. Not in my day. In someone's day, though, I've heard about it. Heat it up on the wooden stove and then solder with it. I don't know when did solder become predominant in electronics, because it used to be screw terminals and stuff that was mounted on a block of wood the size of a board that you would cut bread on. It's a breadboard. You'd have an actual physical bread board that you would build your electronics on. You have a light bulb in a little holder, and it would have screw terminals on either side, and then you would put a copper wire onto that and use the screw terminal to hold down the copper wire, right? So when did that, I mean, that eventually got replaced by the circuit board. And I guess at that point, someone, maybe a consortium, decided that things would get soldered together. I typically know what 70s electronics looks like, and before that, it's anything goes. I don't know what 1960s electronics necessarily look like. 1920 or before. Wow. Okay. So well around the tube era in computers. Okay. Well, back when computers would be computing numbers. Actually, back then, computers was, you would have your computers, who were a bunch of ladies that would compute things. They would go over your equations and do all of the iterations. Guitar amps are still point-to-point wiring. Huh. The good ones, anyway. A kit radio for a crystal kit was mostly wire wrap and posts. Wire wrap and posts wasn't... That was like 70s, right? 60s, too, because of Vietnam. That's the one story about wire wrap that I hear from the radio guy. At my old job, the radio guy was like, yeah, we our radios used to be wire wrap And that way you could fit much more dense circuitry because you can have multiple different wires on a post. So you could have your 60,000 layer circuit board. And then if something goes wrong with it, you can repair it in the field. Although the fragility of having all of those little wire wrap wires is kind of a thing. That's true. Solder being used in jewelry, that may have been the initial use case. I always watch those jewelry making gifts, and I'm like, man, I could do this. This looks cool. You just have to be a little bit more careful. Over 5,000 years old, really? That's a... You've been doing that for some time then. I sucked the entire circuit board into the solder sucker. Oh my God. Oh no, I've got to get it out of the solder sucker now. It's gone. Oh, we got it. Ladies and gentlemen, we got them. Okay, so that's all sucked. I've done my sucking for the day. Now we've got blank pins. Now keep in mind, upon purchasing all of this stuff, probably if we were smarter, I could have bought this stuff without any of the pins on it initially, although the pins did help us get into the screen. You're not necessarily going to have to be doing what I'm doing with these two circuit boards. If you buy one of these screens, even today on eBay, and you just pay a little bit of attention, you can probably get one of these that's configurable as I2C. I'm not sure if this one can natively do I2C. We can look at the data sheets to find out. In the meantime, I am going to get some chemicals over here, and the chemical that I use has fallen to the floor. I use Goof Off. Now, acetone can melt plastic. But we're not sitting this thing in plastic. We are going to just briefly apply a little bit of acetone, orange-flavored acetone, aka Goof Off. Okay, what the hell just happened? Oh, my... Sorry, I'm going over here to get a Q-tip. Let me just get a Q-tip here. So this acetone won't melt any of the plastics in the amount of time that we will be applying it for, and it will break down the nasty flux residue and pull it into the Q-tip where we don't have to worry about it anymore. So while, yes, acetone is a horrible solution, and it smells, and it's strong, and it dries out your hand, for the amount of time that we're actually working with it, it's fine. I also can't let it drip onto this table, or else the markings will go away. MEK for extra points? No thanks. I don't want to get near that stuff. Mercury nitrate, it made felt stiff. Also insanely soluble in water and permeable to skin. You guys are just talking about nasty ass chemicals. Nail polish. No. Well, I guess this is technically nail polish remover. And that'll just lift out. It'll just lift up the flux. There's a lot there, so I do have to do quite a bit. And we'll probably have to use both sides of the Q-tip. Usually I'd use the other side to dry, but there's so much here that I'm using both sides as a wet application. Because the Q-tip will eventually fill up with stuff, and then it won't really be picking it up. It'll just be smearing it around. All right, get this side with the nasty one. Probably need one more wet application, because there's just the deep layer of nastiness that I'm getting off of this thing. Delicious. If you pull this out of your ear and it looks like this, you should probably go see a doctor. And also, you shouldn't be stuffing these in your ear because they can impact the stuff in your ear and cause you to have Shrek-style earplugs getting pulled out during a doctor's visit many, many years ago. That's where I was, because I was like going to clubs and stuff, right? Not regularly, but I'd go to like the festivals and stuff, and they play very loud music at these things. If you guys didn't know, they really play very loud music. I don't know. They were bad bringing up on those kids, man. They're playing that music so loud. But anyway, they're playing loud music and I'm dancing, having fun. And then I go see my primary care physician and he goes, hold on a minute. And he goes back and gets some equipment. And then he comes back with a very big pair of tweezers and some ear looking stuff, you know, that machine that looks inside of the ear. And he pulls out an earplug that was like this long. I could hear color when I came out of that doctor's office. There was a bug went by, and I heard as the bug was flying. It was insane. Yeah, apparently through the sheer force of negligence on my part, I had kept my ears super duper protected from very loud noises because I had plugs in them. So, not sure you're kidding, but it sounds like Agent Orange. No. It was literally my doctor pulled a plug out of my ear of wax that may have been impacted by using Q-tips. I didn't use them that regularly back then. It could have just been natural, I guess, and just me not spending the time to specifically clean out my ears. So, not me. Oh, sorry. I have like big blunt syringes, and so every now and then I'll fill one with hydrogen peroxide and tilt my ear and clean it out with that every now and then. But I didn't do that back then, and so I had these huge earplugs pulled out of my ears. As a result, to this day, I can hear those teenager alarms that they put in front of like grocery stores to keep kids from idling around them. The squealing of those things I can hear. So if I went into teaching, I would be the bane of all of those kids that set their cell phones with the high frequency alarms that old people can't hear. I can hear it. I can hear it. All right, so we're going to double-sided tape this thing to this thing, and then we'll have an I2C plug on it. These pins, we need to figure out what they are. Is this clean, or is it... Yeah, it's cleanish. Clean enough. When I solder it with real solder, they'll look good again. They're not very shiny right now. All right, so this is how this thing hooks up. So now we know the identity of these, although it's very hard to read. VSS, VDD, VD. The stuff that this has for the backlighting, we will not need. What's up, RYG? What up? Let's see if we can get a higher quality picture of this from the website. Cool, okay. Visit, there we go, that's the right one. Interface I2C with Arduino. Arduino. Get out of here, pop-ups. Oh my God, we gotta get Firefox on this machine. So that's how it's meant to go on. Small trim pot that lets you make fine adjustments to display contrast. We don't have that with this. Oh, there's a jumper. Jumper on the board supplies power to the backlight. If you want to control how bright the backlight is, you can simply remove this jumper. Okay, so we don't need the jumper. Done. And actually, I don't want that on there at all. Bend and flex and bend and flex and bend and flex. Actually, we could just pull this out with a pair of tweezers. We don't have to bend and flex this thing to death. We don't need any of this thing that pertains to the backlight or contrast, because both of those are controlled with commands to the display, and they're default at a pretty good value, so we don't really need to concern ourselves with it at all. Come on, give me this thing. There we go. Okay, so that's out. Unforgivable. That's what you are. Where do I want the cable to exit? I guess somewhere in the middle, just in case. In Burn the Subs, this is going to be sitting on some very, very tall posts. So there will be plenty of room behind it for me to maneuver the wire. I don't need this to be over at one side or anything fancy like that. For on-the-desk purposes, just as long as a wire can exit this thing gracefully, I think we'll be okay. Wow, that dug pins into me. Let's see, are we still active over here? Yeah. Okay, all right, let's, figure out what pins these are. So for that, I need the datasheet for the Noritake screen. Let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, A0, 1, and 2. For single LCD, leave these untouched. Current sensing solutions. That's not what I'm looking for. SB, blah, 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 blah. Wow, this format of web page is very annoying. Okay, so we can't find a larger image. We just have that size. That's whatever. We just look at it. Oh my God, this is not engineer friendly. I'll just get out of here. That was the one that used up all of my computer's memory that last time we were on there. Okay, so we need the Noritake Tron output. This is all MIDI FAF. The disagreement on what voltage each note is something that I had to read about this weekend while calibrating that machine. It turns out that nobody can agree on what MIDI note 60 is. As with synthesizer stuff, some people believe that you shouldn't even be doing this level of tuning on it because the machine should just naturally blah blah blah. No, that's not. What happened was the way that they calculated the notes in between the C notes. You would have a calibration for each C note, and then the notes in between were mathematically derived as 0.88 volt per note, 0.088 volt per note. So it was mathematically derived. So if you had your calibrations all over the place, including stuff that was, like the keyboard's not able to do C7. I can't do C5, but there are notes above C5. So I calibrated C5, but C6 is somewhere mad. I don't know where it is. So C6, the notes in between C5 and C6 are not able to be played because the machine cannot derive the distance between the two calibration points properly. It was kind of mad. And so with the thing given factory parameters, some notes were at 5, some were at 3, some were at 4, 2, etc. There was no order to it. And so I'd go to the next C note and it would be 5 volts, but it has to be 2 volts. So I'd have to press a keyboard key, which would lower the voltage by a couple millivolts. Press it again, couple millivolts. Press it again, couple tens of millivolts. So 0.001 volt. It was like 0.005 or 6 volts every key press. And I had to move an entire volt. So a lot of this over the weekend. A lot of doing this. And the problem is I ran into the sunk cost fallacy where I went, if I stop now, this thing will remain uncalibrated and I will build a MIDI to microcontroller interface, which I have the plug for. I don't have a free microcontroller, but I could easily find one, Raspberry Pi Pico. I could put any microcontroller on that. MIDI is very slow. And then I would want a button and then this and then that and the other thing. So I would then have to code it and make sure that it was coded correctly and that it operated correctly in order to move that voltage line faster. And then by the end of the day, would that have taken more time and effort than me just hitting that button over and over again? I can say definitively that I sat there for hours. Yes, it would be worth it to make that device. Was it worth it now, or was it worth it halfway through my pressing that button over and over again to get the right MIDI volts? I don't know. I don't know. Okay, Noritake 2025? CU 2002, yeah, that's the one, okay. CU series LED VFD. Which one of these has the pinout? I don't know which one of these is the datasheet. This one will have a link to the datasheet. The Mauser. Mauser takes a minute to load, though. That's not so bad. Datasheet. I think this just takes us to this. Yeah, it just takes us to the page. They have a core library, add-on library, demo files. And then the datasheet in here is going to ask for me to email them. Yeah, you gotta send them series, send them stuff. CU 2005, ECB, Oh, you know what? It might be in the downloads folder. There it is. It's in the downloads folder. Okay, so here's our display, and then our pinout is here. See, you can do parallel, you can do synchronous serial. This one does not appear to do I2C. The newer ones do I2C, but I guess we're just gonna hook it up in parallel, which is how we did it last time. Okay, bring this one over here so that I've got this, and then I've got this, and now we know which ones are which. Although this is very pixelated, it's enough for us. So I'm going to actually put the VKB tape, VHB tape down on this first. Let me go get the tape. It's in the drawers here. Tape in the drawers. Where is you? I could use this other double-sided. That's too thin. I like the VHB tape for this kind of use where we're taping two circuit boards together, because if there is the bumps for the pins where the solder is fitting to the pins, the VKB, VHB, whatever tape allows for that. So these don't sit flat, completely flat on top of each other, but that's okay. Okay, that tape is probably up here. Bonk. Bring you guys up. Yeah, so those riv nuts are pretty permanent. So when we do attach the riv nuts, I want to make sure that in CAD we have the complete representation of what computer hardware is going to go in there, so that I don't put extra riv nuts into stuff. Not that that's the end of the world. I just don't know how to get them out. So we will do, I believe on Thursday, we'll do a CAD stream where we just do planning of where those things go. Where is my VHB tape? VK, VH, I don't know which one it is. It's around here, I'll find it. Oh, there it is. 3M VHB, it's an H. It's not, VKB is something else. VKB is a joystick company, the Russian joystick company that tried to fool us in terms of what signals were being sent from their pedals to the computer. There was a weird, it was like an ATtiny 85 that was reading this rotational magnetometer, and we were unable to figure out what the hell language it was speaking until I took half of the signal and XORed it with the other half of the signal, because the ones and the zeros did not seem to correlate to anything, which is apparently a sign of an XOR being used. It took me a while to figure that out. I was going through ones and zeros on big spreadsheets in order to try to decode what the hell language it was talking, and they did that specifically to keep the consumer from getting that value, from getting that data and having to use their own proprietary code translator, which was apparently, it's a hub for a bunch of other of their equipment. So if you've only got their company's stuff, then you use this hub and you can hook the joystick up to the pedals, etc. But we wanted to use our own thing. So it's still sitting over there in a bin, but we have digitally unmasked the communication scheme for that. One of these days we'll get back to the joystick project. That was one of the original stream projects that we didn't get very far with because of things like that. But now that I know what language it's speaking, and I sort of know how to decode it, I didn't want to do any modifications to the foot pedals. Although nowadays, we could just reprogram the ATtiny 85. It was on this little tiny circuit board. So we could just put it like an Arduino program in there and have it speak some kind of our own proprietary and not obfuscated language. We could have it speak I2C. And then my joystick will have foot pedals. But I thought that Star Citizen was going to actually be released. Maybe they're getting close to it, but it doesn't really seem like they're... This is really, really hard to peel off. I don't know what's going on here. I guess these are old. The older it gets, the better it grips this piece of red cellophane that it's supposed to be only trivially stuck to. I mean, I played a bunch of the Star Citizen demo back in the day with the joystick setup, and it was always fun to have two joysticks, because then you could very accurately aim a very large ship. And when you can accurately aim a very large ship, you don't need gimbals on all of the guns, and so you can put bigger guns on that ship. And so I had a ship with genuinely enormous guns that I could aim very precisely. And it was always a lot of fun to have something with a huge amount of inertia. And you basically get into a dogfight and just completely wreck these smaller ships. It was awesome. All right, so now we just wire one pin to the next, huh? And we just figure out which ones are which on this thing. So the ones that are closer to the I2C are VSS VDD. That's these two here. and we got to find out which ones over here are VSS and VDD. And those are pins 2 and 1. So that's got to go the biggest distance of any of them. And I'm just going to like tuck the wire over here and try to keep it out of the way. I probably should install this a little lower down. You know what, before the tape kind of sets in for nearly permanently, because this tape is an absolute bastard to get off. Before that sets in, you can see how hard that was to move. I'm just going to move this all the way down to the bottom here to where the boards aren't touching the pins, but it's close. There, so now I've got this area to kind of work the wires in. Get solder down here. I'll take a page out of Flatulent Gonad's book and put a little blue tack down. Yeah, I don't know where the hell chat's gone. I don't know what's going on. I was gonna step in, but they hate it when I do that. A little bit of blue tack. We'll just hold that glass there. My microscope's probably not even trained on it though. Let us move over. We use all the same color wire on this. There's no need to be crazy. I mean, if you think you're going to get confused, which I probably am, it's good to have multicolor wire. But I've got the scrap piece sitting right here, so I might as well just use up a little scrap piece of wire wrap wire. This wire doesn't take up a lot of room, which is why I use it. It's very small. Okay, let's put a slightly less giant iron tip on. And we'll just work through pin by pin, get these things all wired up. Once we do, we can then connect the four wires to the breadboard and figure out where we're going to be supplying power and stuff from. Luckily, the Raspberry Pi has as much current as USB does on its 5-volt line, so we can run this. This thing is on, well, I hope that thing's communicating in 5 volts, and hopefully over here it'll be able to do 3 volts. Do I want to go flat on this, or do I want to put this thing through? I think I'll go flat. It'll be easier to rework if I mess up. I guess I got to tin the ends. They're not taking on solder very easily. Not taking the solder. So it's a little wasteful. This thing is getting in my way. I keep poking the module tester because it's like right where I'm soldering. Yeah, it doesn't look very neat, does it? I don't think I have any other choice, though. What did I buzz? Oh, dear God. Political texts. Oh my God. In the middle of my stream, political texts? Come on. I am messing this up every which way. This is not... Okay, come, you can do better than this. Wow, that's not great. I'll accept it though. Now, first pin is VSS. Which one was VSS? Is that the positive one? I won't do a tight bend. We'll just do a soft bend. And then VSS. Hold on a sec. We're gonna look that up. We got VSS and VDD, and I forget which one VSS is doing badly on the stock market. All right. VSS, VS, VDD. What is the difference between VSSE and cookies, emails? Oh, God. I hate the internet now. I hate it. You can't get information out of it. You have to squeeze it to get information out. Back in the Paleozoic era, 1960s or earlier, logic was implemented with bipolar transistors. Even more specifically, their NPN supply voltage would be called VCC. The C stands for collector. When FET logic came in, V drain and V source. So VSS source, VDD is drain. So VDD is our first pin here. Sorry, VSS is a V source goes to VCC, which is pin 2. So I'll just get that roughly to length, give it a snip. And maybe this pair of tweezers will pay for itself and actually allow me to strip the end of the wire. I use the black wire because I almost never use it. When I do ground on some of these things, I'll do a bare wire, so it rarely ever gets used. Now that's going to pull away from the jacket when I solder it. So actually what I can do is I'm going to tin the end of the wire so that this takes less effort to put together. That didn't really tin it on the other side, did it? I don't want to just keep applying solder because then it's going to retract way too far. Yeah, it's tinned. So I hate that that pulls back like that. It's just the material that I use. It's just the type of jacket that the wire has. These are for wire wrapping. They're not meant to see heat. Why is that out of focus? Okay, this is just bringing with it some rosin and good solder instead of the chip quick that we left behind. I think that song that I initially heard was The Price We Pay, Jealousy. Da, 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 da. I think I heard that at the grocery store, which brings that Tumblr post that I posted in the funny section of the Discord into new light about they don't play the old and cringy music at the grocery store anymore. They now play my awesome bangers. I think I heard that song that was in that song in the intro. Weird. At the grocery store. No, they would never do heat days off her dress now. That would never be at a grocery store. No, there's no way. That's too explicit. All the old nannies grocery shopping would literally explode. How pornographic that line is. Oh man. So we only have 5,000 more pins to go. Easy peasy. This thing is going to get burnt, but the potentiometer is just there to adjust the contrast of the LCD. We're not even using that. So if it gets burnt, it's fine. I'm not going to lose more sleep over that. Where is it? There it is. Ugh. Gross. That's gross. That's gross. Maybe you just use the tweezers from the get-go. These things are neat. They're right angle for cutting, I guess. But if I just give it a little squeeze and pull, it can also cleanly strip the wire. Strip the wire. That plastic potentiometer is right in my face. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. The reason I'm incensed, I'm talking about it because it's right where my iron's going to poke it and create plastic smell and make this thing look burnt. I guess I could have probably just put a bunch of solder on the other end and plucked it off of the board because it's totally unnecessary. What the? It didn't seem to do anything. There you go. One at a time. I'm doing this. It's slow. The reason we're doing it this way is because it's clean, and I want it to look clean when it's done, and I don't want these wires to be every which way. If I'm just careful with it, it'll look nice. The only other time I've done super clean wiring with this scheme is when I did the keyboard, which incidentally I spilled stuff on last night. And so this morning I was like, oh no. So I got back to the keyboard and pulled it apart, and it worked perfectly after I gave it a little bit of alcohol, just a little alcohol bath on the components, and it worked again. It was the advantage of having the entire microcontroller sitting the way it does. Ooh, that was a little too far. Let's clean that up a bit. Still not having a good sense of feel for these, because they require a lot of pressure for me to close. More pressure than my typical tweezers. I don't like tweezers to require that much pressure. They've got these really thick arms so that you can put enough force into them to actually, you know, break a wire. But I'm only trying to get through the very weak jacket, although they do taper down to that much. But it's still a lot of pinching. Oh, my windows have not updated. Okay, hold on. My chat window is not updating with you guys typing. Watering my garden and listening to you talk data sheets. Hey, that's all right. That's all right. I got nothing against that. I'm still here. Yeah, why? Talking about chemical weapons. Wait, what's been going on? I missed a couple messages here because my chat apparently got memory outed from opening that weird engineer website. Every time I open that site, it kills my computer. Clean up the kitchen. All right, you can do that. I got a link to VX Gas. Why are we linking to VX Gas in my chat? Don't do that. Jeez. The nerve. Oh, this one updated on screen. All right, so I should have been looking there. I have the gray window that I put next to the OBS window just to keep chat up. I'm gonna have to go through all that when I switch to Firefox, which should have been done ages ago. I just thought I could limp with Chrome for a little while longer for all of the chat stuff that I've got on Chrome. I think the plugins exist for Firefox as well, so it'll just be a tiny a tiny inconvenience, I guess, to get it over to the new system, new browser. Then we will continue to use Windows until I'm absolutely forced out of it. So VSS and VDD. Is that? No, it's not. See, it's not. If I lay them next to each other and I use these tweezers to grab them, the wire doesn't necessarily lay flat, and I would like it to. This will hurt. This is going to hurt me. And my hand is cramping because I didn't have any carbs at lunch. I had fish, raw fish for lunch. Actually, no, the one piece of sushi that I had rice on it, but the poke bowl did not have any. It had some slightly carby stuff. So maybe, just maybe, I got some carbs, but not enough to keep my fingers from doing the little diabetic cramp dance, the little Charlie horse dance that they do. It's very annoying. See, I can't lift the soldering iron and keep this thing down against the board. It's just not working. Okay, all right, I gotta put the tweezers up close to the end. Don't know who anyone here is, but I hope all of you have a great day. Well, thank you, Joe Erotic. Jeez, Joe Erotic on YouTube. Weird. See all kinds of crazies. This is so annoying and slow. This should be going faster. I'm just trying to be careful and make it look nice. YouTube would cut to a time lapse where they're soldering stuff. We don't have that luxury here. We're a little bit older school. I have a question. What are your thoughts on the dedicated desoldering tools like the solder suck iron combo or the vacuum gun from Hako? Those work very well, but they can be more trouble than they're worth sometimes. I have one of those little solder sucker tools. It gets very, very hot. And so if you're not careful, if you're being cavalier with it, because you've been using this tool for a while and it always does a great job and it does it so quickly, you can run into a board that's not built as well. Sorry, I have a thermonuclear burp in my esophagus right now. Jeez, why does my stomach do this? I didn't take famotidine, that's the problem. I have a whole baggie of it sitting. No, I did take one. No, I didn't. I forgot about it. I found a little plastic bag that me in the middle of the night put a bunch of famotidine into to take upstairs so that I'd take it with my morning pills, and I forgot about it. So, but the little vacuum guns are, you know, it's trouble to get them working and set up. If I had to desolder something like this, it would be kind of a godsend for something like that. It's really good at desoldering potentiometers on boards too. But again, it's a lot of trouble to set up, and then the temperature regulation is not that good on the one I have. The one I have has pretty bad temperature regulation, and so it can end up blowing through your stuff and like unseating vias. And why did that just... I'm so mad at this. I'm so mad. I'm so mad. I'm so mad. It's like I do everything in my power to hold it down. The longer that it's there, the more I'm chewing up this one. This... down here. This lifting up of the end of this wire is getting on my last nerve. There, whatever. It's probably sticking way up in the air. Yeah, it is. Okay, all right. I gotta fix that. There. That was easy. All right, next one down. Now, which one do we need connected to this thing? Because we had certain ones we weren't using. I just burned up some acid as you were moaning about heartburn. What? Raspberry Pi LCD display. Images. This one. Of course, now we got to load everything. Great. Close that website so it doesn't take up all the memory of my computer. Had pizza yesterday with some very spicy sausage. Ooh, that'll get you. That'll get you. Yeah, so we're not using the 4 pins in the middle there. We're only using the ones on the end. Okay, so that's what I got to do there. BSS VDD. This one would be the contrast thing we're not doing anything with. So, I don't know what the yellow pin is. So ground VCC, no connection. RS is pin 4. I guess we'll go pin by pin on this thing, because this you guys can't see that. Pin by pin on the Noritake screen, because we don't necessarily have all of the pins represented there. So the next one is RS. Yeah, close that. We don't need this. Jump in the line. Mark your body on time. Okay, I believe you. Where was our reference? There it is. So RS is VD, but that's for the display, and then RS. So VD, and then this one's the next one we're doing right here. So this one's RS right here. I'm going slow. I'm taking my time on this one. What's up, Inner Hudson? Long-time lurk, 56 years old. You inspired me to get an Arduino kit and explore. Keep doing the good work. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you very much. It's very nice of you to say. I'm glad to have inspired. I mean, hopefully this show can not only demystify some of this stuff that I do, but also, yeah, encourage people to get clever. Because I mean, the Arduino is this wonderful platform where everyone has done everything already. So there's a wealth of resources when it comes to finding out what you did wrong, or what's not working on something. I know a lot of the state of most 3D printers, the average state of the 3D printer is broken, and the problem is people don't really know troubleshooting all that well, or it might run into just like a skill issue. And so I hope that this kind of stuff, the Arduino kind of stuff, can be a little bit more demystified by the things that I do here, and can encourage people to get out there and experiment and run into problems, and then figure out how to figure out the problems that they may encounter. And all this stuff is very, very accessible indeed. We live in a society I2C is going to help us not use up as many pins on this thing. Not as many pins. Last time I did this, I used green wire for everything. Kind of blended in. So it would be pin 1 is, pin 2 is source, pin 1 is ground, pin 3 is not connected, so that's this one here. Pin 4 is RS, so that's where we're going. So we're going here, and this I can just... These tweezers weren't as cheap as they should have been. Actually, these are the cheap ones. There were more expensive ones, and these were sort of the entry-level cheap ones. Euro tool. Isn't that just Eurovision? The Euro tool. Oh, tool! All right, there's that. Get this thing over here. Oh yeah, we still need to tin this. Hold on, let's tin this first. Before we try to wrestle it into position. All right, a little bit of tinning. Lay this thing down next to its buddies, and it's going to try to fold itself upwards. You're just going to make sure that it doesn't connect to anything but this pin. If I really wanted to be super fancy about this, I could have had these exit down below, and then they would go down there and over. It's fine. This is fine. I don't need to be that special. More wire. I need more wire. Yeah, the person that wanted me to buy bots was like commenting on how long my show's been around and how few viewers I have. But it's like, I don't know. It's just treating it like a numbers game is really kind of slimy. That's all it is on Twitch, though. Everything's a numbers game. But then I get comments, people saying that I inspired them to do something, and it's that makes it a bigger thing than just money. Money and viewer numbers. I do obsess about viewer numbers because we just don't have a ton. Nobody does anymore. But, you get certain channels that are doing things similar to what I'm doing, and they have 10,000 viewers. Well, that's only one, and that's only because it's associated with offline TV. But then, like the one other guy that I know who has like 800 viewers regularly on the channel does stuff a little bit more crazy than I do, but I could milk that sort of content for views. I could do crazy stuff. Yeah, we got to get stuff done though, wait, what's the next one down the line? I didn't even look. After RS, we have R/W, so WR. Which one is that? RW read write. So this is, what is it? VSS, VDD, V backlight or whatever. Is that SW or it looks like MS? I gotta look up an LCD pin, serial LCD pinout. This is a terrible. I don't know why I don't give myself more pixels. Maybe because they all look stupid. Let's see, which one's... I don't know. This one's probably good. Actually, this one probably has all the right numbers on it. Ground VCC VEE. What? VEE? Well, RS we just did. RW is the next one in line. Okay, so yeah, we're on track. Non-standardized pinout, and everybody has their own idea of what they should call everything. Like VEE is just the backlight pin. I don't know why it's called backlight. VE, it's a weird designation, but... How am I holding this? This thing is in a weird direction. Yeah, all this magnification that I use is also another reason why we're able to do this stuff so easily. Everything is super duper big and magnified for me. What? What's going on? I have no heat transfer at all. Hey, give me a little bit of love over here. Like nothing was happening when I held the wire up. Mostly gravity is causing the solder to drip down, and so it doesn't look like there's enough solder there. This will pull up a little bit with solder tension. Not as much as I thought. All right, where's my sponge just fell out? No, everything's distracting me today. Let me concentrate. Watched Common Side Effects again last night, so I got all the music from that stuck in my head. RW is on pin 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's on this one. Why is that so chewed up? Looks weird. Hold on a sec. I gotta investigate this. It shouldn't be all burnt up like it is. Maybe just because I was tweezing it there? Looks terrible. Yeah, that's the one thing that's like difficult with this wire, is that it burns up with the soldering iron. It's a little bit sensitive. All right, now carefully. That worked, and when I apply a little solder to tin it, it's going to pull back the jacket. So maybe that'll give me just enough. When was the last YouTube message that came through? That was Joe Erotic. All right, we're good. Just want to make sure that the chats are kept up with, because we opened up that stupid website that pulls in like videos in the background, and that ate up all of my memory. And so Chrome goes, oh no, and it parks some of the windows, even if I tell it to prioritize them. And that was to get everybody off of their back about using too much RAM. Nobody faults Firefox for using too much RAM. That one was much cleaner and easier. That one was pin 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope, that was not pin 5. Pin 5 is over here. Pin 5, RS. That's got to be shortened a little bit. It's never easy. It's never easy, you know? But I'm learning this new technique with the pinch tweezers. I pinch. Maybe little pinch. See, that's a little cleaner, although it wrenched on the wire in a way that I did not like. I did not care for that. All right, it's like that, and we can pull this thing back a little bit. There's only so many pins here to solder. We're getting through them. And once we get through this, it'll be very easy to connect our Raspberry Pi, and we can eventually move on to LEDs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pin 5. I gotta tin it. I gotta tin it still. I gotta tin it. Okay, and then this guy over here. All right. You know what? I don't need that. I don't need that in my life. Jerks. This is where the wires are going to cross over each other and be a little bit sloppy, huh? Yeah, they're just going to have to. We'll just be sloppy. Sloppy wires. All right, RW, then E, which E is pin 6. So that would be this pin here. So we have to go here with E, which is this one. Let us wire up E. I tried to extract gold from some IC chip dust I made by burning, grinding, and sifting. I've seen the videos of them doing that overseas, and these are dudes sitting there in sandals and putting all of this electronic circuit board waste crap through some genuinely terrifying processes of acid and grinding and burning in order to extract the gold. It's genuinely frightening to watch. Nobody is going to live beyond 30 there. They're all wearing safety sandals the whole way. It's horrifying, horrifying. One of the ways that I was actually going to try doing that one time with gold washed pins. I had access to tons of them, and I sort of started collecting them, but it ended up not being a thing that I did. I didn't end up going through the process of unplating the precious materials. Probably would have gotten very, very little out of what I was able to collect too. You need like a ton of it to make any sort of a meaningful amount of spare cash. It would be fascinating though, a fun little dive into chemical processes. Save that for the videos though. I saw a video of some Peruvian gold mine. I think it was Peru. It might have been somewhere else, but where the like wash barrel for the end of the gold extraction process, they would drop a palm full of mercury in there and stomp around in it barefoot, and then take that palm full of mercury and burn it over a fire until what was left was the gold that the mercury had absorbed. Just, you know, an open mercury fire. Just an open fire where we're dissolving mercury into the atmosphere after having stomped it with our bare feet for a little while. Now, those guys are probably mad as hatters because they're dealing with the same material. I forget where I saw that. It was many, many years ago. Now that's pretty clean as long as I can get a grip on the wire. Let's get a little solder on there so it solders in quietly. So my soldering iron stand has one flaw, and that's the little cup that's supposed to hold a piece of dry sponge. There's a space for a wet sponge, but I never use it. But this little dry sponge thing needs some kind of a lip on it, or maybe if they could like let me put a spike through the bottom or something in order to hold this in place, because when I dip into it a little too far, it'll just come out with the rest of the iron. I use a dry sponge because I can't stand having little puddles of fetid water all over my shop. I'm gonna have to take that famotidine. I can like feel my stomach trying to digest itself. Where is the iron? There it is. I'll take a minute in just a second here. Mercury is the tastiest of the transition metals. That was a line from C-Lab 2020. Mercury, the tastiest of the transition. A whale said it. I'm going to desolder this one so it's not in the way. My process wasn't as bad as those in the videos. I used gravity sluice, a gravity sluice, to concentrate the gold bond and wires. Huh. What am I doing? Solder sucking this one pin. See, like 2021. Sorry. If you're looking for me, you better check under the sea, because that is where you'll find me. That was an era of Adult Swim shows, huh? Used to get home from school. No, we'd just be home after school, because that ran through the middle of the night. We'd watch Dragon Ball and all those other shows, but we'd all be on AOL Instant Messenger, talking with each other. All kinds of drama, teenager stuff. All right, that was E. Now we've got our DB 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. When we hooked this up to the Raspberry Pi, we did not hook up 0 through 4. I don't know what's up with that. I don't know why we didn't hook those up. Maybe just because it doesn't have the... Well, no, because you specify the number of thingy-wingies. Either way, we're going to be hooking it up the same way that we did the other one. So let me just look it up real quick. Raspberry Pi LCD display. When you do work like this, there's a lot of referencing references and other references. It can be quite a slog. Yeah, so the next pins in line here are D0, 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, 6, 7 are connected. So I guess that's what we're going through. What is this last one? It's a ground. There goes Willow barking at something. That corgi will not stop barking. Because she's a corgi. That's what they do. She's got a very sing-song kind of bark, though. Aqua Teen Hunger Force and Venture Brothers, the golden age of Adult Swim. Venture Brothers being the golden age of Adult Swim does not describe an era properly, because it has been and always will been and always has been. It was there early on, and it is there very, very late in the game. In fact, it only just ended with the movie. Those guys put out a season every 2 years, and I thought we'd be all dead and buried in the ground by the time it ended. They really could have used like 2 more seasons, but I guess fine, whatever. We would have been dead and in the ground by the time they finished, and it's nice to have a little bit of resolution. Although the movie was very rushed, you could kind of see the DNA of that last season. It would have been nice if some parts of that had a little bit more room to breathe. But we got what we got was gold, and it was good, and I am happy. Where a show about failing becomes it's iconic. I don't know, what are those guys going to be working on now? Are they just going to take a permanent vacation now? Or I hope they work on some other show. Doc Hammer, I think, and I can't recall the name off the top of my head. You can see tons of cameos of them in basically every background character. I knew I belonged here when you said arise, chicken arise. I don't think I've said that. I've said my hair heater before. That show was great because it was a good representation of New Jersey. It's Aqua Teen Hunger Force talking about. Okay, so D what? D 0, 1, 2, 3. We're not hooking up. Pin 11 is DB4, which is what this one is. So DB4 pin 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh, and there's the label for 13 and 14. Yeah, I don't remember the Super Mega Chicken as much as everybody else does. I think I've watched it on YouTube by now, but... There's parts of Aqua Teen that I've kind of missed out on. I did see the movie in theaters. That and we saw Freddy Got Fingered in theaters for the 2 days that it was actually allowed to be in theaters. And I think, you know, an elephant orgasming onto his father was a little bit too much for the theater-going crowd at the time. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And it was all just Tom Green being like, they trusted me with a movie? Oh my God. From the Rust episode after they were canceled the first time. Oh. I'll have to pull those up at some point and actually like catch up on some of that. Because yeah, I love Aqua Teen Hunger Force, but I missed a bunch of it during its run. Well, you couple that with the fact that he was suspending sausages from his fingers and playing the keyboard at the same time is just absolute fucking genius. Wait. Ooh, see, that's why I desoldered. That's why I kept those from soldering, because we're actually going down here. Almost got that one wrong. And if I got it wrong, I would explode. There would be no survivors. We really need to do something soon that'll get us on the front page of Twitch. I gotta figure out what that's gonna be. Because like a 5-hour stream, if I get to the front page of Twitch, I'm probably gonna stream for 8 hours, let's be honest. If I do like an 8-hour stream, what would take up that amount of time and be interesting the whole time? Maybe rewiring a Furby so that we can make it do our own animatronic bidding. Just hooking it up to a Raspberry Pi would probably be enough to take up the entire amount of time. Need to come up with some kind of an animation for it. Well, the Fartbox and the Furby, I don't know if I want to keep those two separate. You know, while I could gut the Fartbox and turn it into something that's activated, I could just make it a sound. I could just make a sound player on the Raspberry Pi. But it's funnier that that thing is its own sort of device. It's sort of its own controller and everything. I was going to put a speaker in the Furby so that, well, there's already probably a speaker in there, but make the Furby just do like a little dance when a fart goes off. I could do that. I didn't take the famotidine. Hold on a second. Ah, my stomach is like, give me a sec here. My esophageal sphincter will thank me for this. Whoa. I almost took the light with me. I put the mic cable up on the light these days. I probably should make just like a peg this can go on so it can fly off of here without pulling the light over. I do this so that my stool doesn't crush the wire. Because if my stool crushes that wire, it can eventually break that wire. And I do have one spare, but I don't have two spares, so... There you go. Bottoms up. We're doing drugs today. Oh yeah, that's the stuff. I'm not going to see any benefit from this for a while until my stomach clears out the acid that it's already made. All right, so back to the remaining couple wires that we have to do on this thing. Now this seems like it's an incredibly arduous process. It's just because of my personal preference in doing this way, making it clean and compact and all that stuff. It does not have to be this arduous of a process if you are doing something similar to this. If I were to do a one-day stream where we get that Furby functioning and animatronically taken over, I would need to have some kind of a finish line thing. I would need to be able to do something with it that's funny at the very end, like make it dance or, talk through AI or something like that. That would sort of be taking it to fruition. Just rewatched Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. That is a good film. It's long. And boy howdy does it take you on an adventure. They parodied it quite a bit in Venture Brothers. One of God's own prototypes. Too weird to live, too rare to die. That sticks in my head. I don't know if I may be getting that a little bit wrong, but I tried to memorize that line. When I first heard that, I was just like, holy shit, that's a perfect line. There he goes. All right, loop this around. It's got to look fancy, you know? I mean, all things considered, I shouldn't be trusting this thing as much as I am. I am trusting it to work and not need to be pulled from the LCD. So I'm wiring this to length of what needs to be right here, right now. If anything forces me to pull these things separate, I will be SOL. Can't get in there with this because of the post right there. Maybe if we do it this way. Yoink. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff that I've been meaning to get to, but we need to do screens and LEDs with Raspberry Pis because we need to get these functional blocks vetted out for the final Burn the Subs project. For their final contribution in the Burn the Subs project. There's so many little things that I would like to get to around here. With the modular synthesizer now in its tuning phase, we will be able to do a little bit with the tuning of that thing and maybe make it make noise. There's some modules that I've been meaning to get back to repair. And all the while, I need Burn the Subs. And what I really need is for Burn the Subs to work again. I need to get it working again. Because, yeah, enough's enough. We might as well have the signature thing that I've made working. What's the name of the tweezer style? I don't remember what it is precisely called. Hold on, let me look them up. I think my account's signed in over here. I'll just look them up real quickly and I can tell you exactly what they are. Go to my orders. I've been looking at dresses apparently. Returns and orders and tweezer. Enter. 15A cutting tweezers, stainless steel, 4.5 inches. I think they're pretty good for what they are. They're supposedly for cutting, although I wouldn't want to do too much metal cutting with them because I don't trust the cutting edge on it. But they are like real thick and kind of a little bit tough to press in. I could use them being a little bit weaker, and then I would get a better feel of going through the jacket of the wire. But they're good for $12. I was worried that I'll never get around to all of my projects. Get to the end of life and my collection of electronics will go in the dump. Well, you won't care at that point. When you're dead, who cares, right? It doesn't matter. But what you may leave behind is a pretty cool estate sale that I can wander around. So don't worry about that because I have been through what you worry that you would be leaving. Apparently these are the ones to get, but they're $54. I'm not going to spend $50 on a pair of tweezers. I know the economy sucks and everything is more expensive, but $50 on a pair of a pair of cutting tweezers that probably would do the job really, really well. These look like they would be awesome. And it's possible that in some of the electronics labs that I've worked in, these have existed and I probably could have stolen them. But unfortunately, I am just not going to spend this much money on this pair of tweezers. I would love to, but no. No, 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 no. Nor should any of you. The ones that I have are working just fine. They seem to be doing the job that I need them to do. So I think they're good. I think these tweezers, the $12 ones, are just good for the job. I don't need to go overboard and get crazy ones. We don't need to get crazy. Okay, one more of these to go. So let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah, these are meant for cutting, so they're very hard to squish together, and I don't want that. Tweezers in this economy? Yeah, cost of the tweezer index is all fucked up right now, guys. They would last a lifetime for that price. If I were a professional shop that needed to do stuff with cutting tweezers all the time, I could maybe see spending that money. Just so you get like a real professional tool that has ESD protection and everything on it, but that's not, I mean, even though I am a professional shop that does do the stuff with the tweezers all the time, I still can't, it's just not, that's not it. That ain't it, that ain't the solution. I wish they could maybe fall in price because they probably never sell any. Maybe that's an eBay thing. I don't know who's buying those tweezers these days. Maybe jewelry makers? It's always jewelry, isn't it? Just on the 15A ones for 10 pounds. Oh, there you go. Just a tenner. Yeah, I mean, they're useful. It's just they're hard to get used to. Because you've got to put so much force into it. Oh my goodness, Willow. Jeez. She's putting her all into barking at something out there. And it's probably just somebody walking. You know, people, there's a lot of people outside in this neighborhood. It's great weather, and there's a lot of geriatrics here that are stuck in their houses all day. At precisely 10:30 in the morning, all the retirees decide that the dread, the existential dread of being retired is too much, and so they decide to get in their cars and go out and get Starbucks. 10:30, I'm out there with Willow walking the dog. Every single car in the neighborhood, every geriatric is coming through, bowling through us to get to their Starbucks. I do not understand people that cannot be indoors and entertain themselves. I understand the appeal of going outside, but there's bugs out there. It's gross. Outside is overrated. Well, you know, I always say touch grass at the end of stream, because that's what I do. I go out there and I touch that grass. I've even posted a picture in the Discord of me touching grass. It was legendary. But I guess that's just from going to my grandparents over the summer, and we were in New Hampshire, where there is traditionally very little to do other than going outside. And at times we were there during the winter when there's just literally nothing to do. And so watched Adult Swim because they had cable, and learned how to do weird things that entertain me, like building electronics. The electronics were not as a result of going up to New Hampshire summers. That's not why I learned electronics. I learned electronics because my brother learned electronics. I now know way more than he does, and I really enjoy building stuff with my hands, my mitts. And I like to modify things. And then after college, I was like, well, I learned a lot about electronics. That was neat. And then microcontrollers became a big thing, so I had to learn programming. Extroverts are the bane of introverts. Can they not just shut the fuck up for a little bit? Like, is that difficult? It's not difficult. I've done it all the time. See, just then I didn't say anything. Okay, so this is all fully wired up in accordance to how the Raspberry Pi is supposed to be wired up via parallel. I don't really know what these guys were doing, D0 through 4. I'm not sure. So we just have the other ones in there, and I think that'll give us the ability. What the hell happened here? It's just blue tack. I just put blue tack on it to hold it in place. I learned electronics because I would rather take something apart and learn how it works than actually using the thing. That's a that's a take. That sounds like me in my car. All right, so we are wired up. Now we need to plug. Well, now I need to keep my fingers from curling around backwards. Whoa, okay. What is the glucose level doing? What is the glucose level doing that's causing this frameless? Oh, framed blood glucose. 161, and it didn't even spike. We got close to, we were in the 200s for a little bit there. Here, where is that? That's this one. Let me move over a little bit. Yeah, so blood glucose went up because I ate a poke bowl, and there's little bits of carby stuff in there. Not a lot. And then it came back down all the way over here. And for some reason that leads into, and maybe because it's yesterday I spent the entire day hitting the same button on a keyboard over and over. When I close my fist like this, my muscles want to continue to close, or when I open my fist like this, my muscles will sometimes want to continue to open. It's just Charlie horses. So I'm having a little bit of that. It's not because of glucose swings in any direction. Usually when it's swinging like down or whatever, that'll happen, but yeah, if it explodes, it'll make good shorts content. True. I haven't had anything explode in a long time. Then I blew a lot of stuff putting things back together. Yeah, you know, that's my story too. I used to take everything apart, and eventually they kind of started to go back together, and then now I can put stuff back together and they work, which is not an initial result of my taking it apart. It's not something one should expect at first. If you're like, I want to get into electronics, and you start taking stuff apart, it will not go back together. And whenever we take something apart on stream, I try to walk you guys through that process, try to walk the crowd through the process and sort of know what to expect from taking something apart, and how to do it without ruining everything. But a lot of that process is experiential from having a history of taking things apart and breaking them. Like when my brother and I were little, we used to take our toys apart and then put them together with each other. And so at one point we had his RC car had skis on the front because it was the winter of '94, the big winter that we had here in the Northeast. Nobody remembers the winter of '94. What the fuck are you talking about? Stop talking. All right, let me get this out of the way. I'm gonna clean up a little bit, and then we'll hook this thing up to the breadboard. And then we're gonna find some kind of a Raspberry Pi thing that will allow us to boot this thing up. And yeah, what power cable did I use? I used this huge cable, didn't I? I think it's sitting over there. Oh no, it's right here. Here it is. This is way too long of a cable. This is an Xbox USB cable. We are similar. Probably most of us here did some silly stuff. Well, model kits were what I did a lot of back in the day, and they never really went together that well. As a grown adult, thinking back on it, I probably could have done cooler stuff with the model kits, especially with all the kit bashing that they were doing in movies back then. I should have keyed into that and done that. I could have had a career in Hollywood, kit bashing. Probably not. Probably not, because you need to be super duper talented in that kind of stuff for that to work out. Plugging in a USB while your fingers are trying to curl backwards. Holy shit, I don't know what's going on. Some diabetic is going on with Bother today. I think it's from having very few carbs. Yeah, when I was in high school, grade school, I made this thing that allowed me to set off a camera flash with an RC remote. And everybody thought it was amazing and fascinating. And then I worked in IEDs for almost 10 years. All right, hold on. Okay, so 4 pins here. SDA, SCL, serial data, something, serial clock. I2C, everybody shares a line. Where is it? Everybody shares a line, and there are pull-down resistors on that line. So on SDA and SCL, you will have a clock and then your signal. And that allows you to keep all your ones and zeros straight. And there are protocols for talking over each other. So the device will start talking, and if somebody else is talking, they'll wait a little bit, and then everybody tries to talk again. So there's like a little bit of a sort of error protocol in there. Now, we only have one receiving device, so I don't think this thing is talking back. The question is, on the Raspberry Pi, do we need those pull-down resistors? Do they include the pull-down resistors somewhere in the grand scheme of things, or are we assigning random channels to I2C and we're unable to have them at a high voltage level initially? So we'll probably have to do two resistors that are something like 5 kilo ohms that will pull up to 3.3 volts, not 5. So I need to make sure that I'm not sending 5 volts back into any of these pins, because the Raspberry Pi is unforgiving with its voltage levels. It's unfortunate because I believe that the standard should be 5 volt tolerant pins, but people don't want to put the microelectronics in their ICs in order to, you know, deflect the extra power. The lights in my keyboard broke. When did that happen? So Raspberry Pi, I2C, LCD. Now our LCD is 5 volts, but it can also be compatible with 3, and then having I2C in there means that I think we can limit the amount of voltage that the thing sees back. Python SM bus package. How to set up a Raspberry Pi 4 with an LCD display using I2C. Backpack. Oh, well, that's what we're doing. So there are pins for SDA and SCL. We don't need a resistor, unless that's where they show the resistor. Oh, and then this is going in through the desktop to enable I2C. We're going to have to find console commands in order to do it. We're not doing it directly through the. This is a headless Raspberry Pi. There's nothing connected to it. There's no screen, so we don't have an OS. Power to 5 volt, ground to ground, SDA and SCL. Okay, cool. So we just need 4 wires to do this. Sweet. Nice and easy, just as I planned. By the way, when you guys see me looking up something on the computer, it's only polite to just not like look over my shoulder. No, I'm just kidding. When I'm looking up something on the computer, I don't actually know what I'm doing. That's the thing. I know how to look up stuff on the computer, right? I know what I'm doing there. It's like when I research something with you guys on stream, that's because I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do this. I figured, because I've done this before, not with a Raspberry Pi, with a microcontroller, using one of these little hats, getting into a serial LCD and having it display stuff. I have done that before, so I figured Raspberry Pi should probably support that, right? And so we went through all the trouble of putting this together, and I only just now found out that it is in fact totally doable, and it works at 5 volts, and you don't need to add the resistors for I2C. I just learned all that stuff with you. What does bother bring to the table? Complete incompetence masquerading as expertise. So your typical corporate structure. Get rid of some of this excess wire. Excess wires all over my lab setup is that ain't my tune. The wires have always got to be clean, because if there's a fire, I want to be able to stamp it out easily. Fake it till you make it. Yeah, that's pretty much. I mean, I guess my strengths lie in research and, I don't know, stuff related to what I was just talking about that I forgot. Yeah, so with any given lab setup, you're going to have a lot of stuff that you need to do. God, I talk too fast sometimes. There are a lot of things that need to occur in a lab setup. A lot of steps to go through, a lot of troubleshooting that you're going to go through, and that's going to create sort of this whirlwind mess on your desk. Stop, clean up, keep going. That's always going to benefit the end result. So what I've done just now is I stopped, cleaned up everything, and now we're going to continue on hooking this thing up. It's just part of the process that a lot of people forget, is cleaning up the bench so that you can see all of your wires and you can see if there's some part of your setup that isn't quite what it should be. Take it from somebody who's done a lot of bench setups. A lot. A-L-L-O-T, all one word. Allets and shallots. All right, so this is some kind of a bundle of wires that I was using for something else. I only need 4 of these. I'm learning transmission lines for speaker design. Rabbit hole. Weird. We did a small unit in that when I did motors and controls. We had a unit of the textbook that was all about what goes on magnetically inside of transformers. And when you convert electricity into magnetism and you have the magnetism in the windings of the transformer, it apparently, when it goes through the ferrous stuff, the iron that makes up the transformer, when it goes through that, it works a lot like resistors, capacitors, and inductors, only you're in a magnetic domain. So you convert the numbers and then you're in a magnetic domain, and so your resistor is something weird and your capacitor is something weird, but it's very eerily similar to that. And so that would then, that unit then pivoted over to speakers and balancing all the ohms and the loads of your speaker system. And I was like, whoa, I totally understand all of this stuff now. And then as soon as I walked out of that test at the end of the year, I took one step outside of the room and I forgot every single bit that I had learned previous. Everything gone, just out of my brain. It sucked because I was like, man, I finally understand. Okay, so 5 volts. Why isn't that plugging in? All right, we'll wait on the 5 volts into here. Trying to get to the end of the wire. Oh, that's going to unplug very easily. I can press down on some of this stuff and it'll link a little bit more. Well, no, I'm not going to. Ground here. Let's do green for data. I'll of course make a 4-pin DuPont connector for this later. Data and then clock. And then this, I don't know which way is right side up on this thing. I think it might be like this. Oh no, is it this way? I think it's this way. I don't know. What the? Tequin Dragon, how you doing? With some Z's. Did I give you permission to fall asleep? Hey, thank you so much for the subs. 15 months. Hell yeah, brother. Okay, so green was data. This one's ground. G and D. Dynamite. Oh, it's morning for you. Yeah, I had a rough morning this morning. I don't know what it was. I think I swallowed the pillow or something. Just snoring. This one here. Data green. And then clock is the remaining. So 4 pins, that's it. We now have I2C communications from the Raspberry Pi to the screen. Now, that's all well and good, but we haven't really enabled anything, and we haven't really technically gotten this thing running yet. Let's take a look at how we do that and try to find a tutorial that's not going to curdle my milk. What's I going to do tomorrow? I think more tuning. That's what I've been doing this whole weekend, is tuning synthesizers. And the problem is, it was just this MIDI thing, just the MIDI thing that we built. I got it tuned finally. The problem was, none of the C notes were tuned. In order to tune this, you power it on with this button held down, and it goes into a tuning mode. And so when you send it a C of each octave, so C1, C2, well, it's C0, 1, 2, 3, 4, it then has a voltage assigned for all those C notes, and it uses the volts in between in order to determine what each note is. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, blah, blah, blah. Those are given by equation, but the C's are calibrated into the device. So I had to change the voltages because remember, this was on factory settings. So I had to change the voltage from something like 7 volts all the way down to 2 volts using the up-down control. So the C note and then the key below it and the key above it. So C sharp and I don't know, the B, B and C sharp or D flat. I don't know. Anyway, those two notes, up and down. But the problem is, up and down was a scale of tens of millivolts because the difference between 2 volts or 1 volt and the volt next to it is 1 octave in notes. And so each of the jumps is 0.088 millivolts. And so you need to be able to tune this musically. So I sat here doing this for 4 or so hours. I had to do this or this or this or this. At one point, I was using 2 hands to do this. What I really should have done is plug in a MIDI connector on this board here and just made a little microcontroller device that would send it those. But sunk cost fallacy. I'm only going to have to do this for only a little bit longer. The Mr. Bean of the UK Olympics. I saw that show. I don't remember anything about it. It sucked. I was doing it for the whole thing. Wait, I'm kind of remembering the Mr. Bean thing. But anyway, yeah, so I sat here doing that yesterday. That was torture. That device is now fully tuned, but it's tuned towards what is an argument in modular synthesizers, which is what note is C4, middle C. What note is C4? What voltage does it correspond to? 0, 2, 3, 4. I have it currently as 4. C4 is 4. C of N is equal to N. My keyboard only goes up to C5, and it only goes down to C negative 2. So I don't know if I need to tune negative 2 to be 0 volts or what. I don't know. But if I do have to reset it at all, I'm definitely making a machine that, because see, like here, the 3340 VCO doesn't agree. It says C1 should be 0 volts. Oh, it's 0.0909 per note. There we go. So yeah, this is quite a weird voltage to deal with. God, that was annoying. Okay, yeah, Raspberry Pi, I2C. We need one that uses console, not the desktop. These are going to pop up all kinds of stuff, and it's going to end up parking my the memory for my chat windows again. Here we go. This is perfect. LCD is equal to LCD. Oh, this is perfect. We don't have to install anything. From LCD, import LCD. And LCD, I think, is already installed. We're already using it. I'm going to stand up for a minute. I've been sitting for way too long. You guys do yourself a favor if you've been sitting down for all this time. Please stand up. You do not want to get blood clots. I don't think that health message is going to save anyone's life, but I might as well say it. All right, so let's see if we can get a hello world on this thing. If I recall correctly, we go to WinSCP. And we're going to go into that 1, 2, 3 test code that we've got. So new tab and pi at 192.168, or is it serial is 0 printer fridge pi? I think it's pi at IP address. Nope. Did we not save it last time? Uh-oh. That means I got to go into the router and see what IP address I gave to this one. You are the real oh bother. Please stand up. No, I'm Spartacus. No, I'm Spartacus. All right, cancel. Get out of here. Oh, close the whole program. Great. Thank you, WinSCP. Love it. Start it up again. You. No. No. We can get rid of this one. Jeez. printer Pi at 123, and then I have it at 124. Let me just get into my my router here. I could have the Raspberry Pi tell me its IP address when we get the LCD to work. What am I? I'm admin. That's my name. Oops, hold on. Gotta log in. Make sure my hands are in the right spot on this tiny little keyboard that I use. And then I need to look at all the IP addresses of every single device on this network. You guys do not get to see that. That is not something I'm sharing with you. Shenzhen Fantin Tech. What the? Desktop. Android. Server. It's not on the wireless. What the? Wait a minute. Oh, did I accidentally power it down when I plugged 5 volts into it? That might have been what happened. Hey. Don't scare me. How dare you? How dare you? I don't see it anywhere. Bulb 1. What the hell is that one? All right, I'm gonna power it down, power it back on, see if it comes in. It's got a green light blinking on it. And it should be connected to my Wi-Fi. I'm gonna wait for device number 18 to show up. How many devices can I get to before things start getting a little hinky on the wireless? I mean, you've also got Bluetooth Low Energy on that frequency too. This thing does not appear to be showing up. There's Shenzhen again. I don't think it's showing up as Shenzhen. It should be Raspberry Pi, I think is what it should be called. Unless the fixed, it was 234, right? Is 234 being used by something else? No. Shouldn't allow for that. Come on, man. Fartbox, NAS server, Android, Bulb 1, desktop. Bulb 2 is all the way over there. Why? Bulb 1 must not have gotten a fixed IP, huh? Okay, so unless it is Bulb, I don't think it's Bulb 2. Well, let's test. Let's see if Bulb 2 comes up on, where are you? All the way down here. Bulb 1, 2.238. Huh. One's the ideal light, the other's the on-air light. And I guess one of them didn't get a fixed IP address. This one is probably the ideal light. I've still got 2 more of those bulbs, so we'll be able to turn one into hopefully a NAS health monitor indicator light. And I can put that over on the rack over there. Yeah, our Raspberry Pi is not coming up on the network. I don't know what's going on. That should have been, I mean, we had it working the other day just fine. Unless that power supply hates it. We don't have the red light of doom over here, though. We don't even have the green light of doom. Wait a minute. Can you give me a sign here, Bubby? You alive? You doing okay? Can you see me? Can you hear me? Oh, this thing's warm. For some reason. Wait a minute. Why is that warm? Wait a minute. Why is that warm? These things are kind of power hungry, but I don't think it's out of spec. Why would that be warm? Oh, now we got lights again. Wait a minute. wait, whoa. Clients 17 still. Oh, there's the Raspberry Pi. It's at 124. Oh no. Oh no, we were drawing too much current. it was going through something that didn't like it. So, yeah. So there we are. Now we're connected to it, and there's 123.py, and this is our code that we were running, except now we can blow this whole thing away. I don't even care about keeping this. This is somebody else's code. Just hold on, I'm reminding myself what GPIO pins. Okay, so yeah, we can run pretty simple code through this. I can keep the German comments. Well, I'm gonna have to use the power supply to power it up then. I plugged it into this thing hoping that would be able to match the wattage, but it can't. Another thing that I should probably do is use one of those USB-C adapters, because then I can plug stuff into that power supply just to like power up my system voltages like this. But we can use power supply over here. Get some leads in here. I bought these things. They're for speakers, but I was going to use these on the barrel connector just temporarily. Leads. Where are my leads? What did I do with my leads? I took them off of here. Now I don't know where they are. Yeah, the thermal imager gives me a little bit of an advantage in that I can see when stuff starts heating up. Typically, that function would be performed by my sense of olfactory, in that you would start to smell hot plastic that has been heated up against its will to the point where you start to either smell it burning or you just smell it in general. You just get kind of an impression like, it's kind of like a radio, kind of like the inside of an old TV. And oh my God, this wire's hot. That's how that typically would go down. I don't think I put my leads on the wire hanger over here. One day I will move shop and I'll be able to put those wire hangers up tall where you can hang all your different types of wires. They're like little fork things that hold on to them. But that is not today. That is not this day. Where else would that be? Probably in this drawer over here. There's a drawer full of wires here that's kind of taken on the role of, yeah, holding test leads sometimes. So that's where those were. Got them. How am I going to do this? Well, I guess what I can do is punch 5 volts into this without USB. And since it's going into a power supply, it should be pretty well regulated. And with any luck, it won't blow up my Raspberry Pi. I don't enjoy doing it this way, but it is one of the ways to do things. We can, because we're programming this thing wirelessly. It's on the Wi-Fi. We're not throwing code into a traditional microcontroller. And these are all baby steps to get us to a functional setup, a functional control box for Burn the Subs. Man, that thing needs to hold on a little better. What do you... No. Ugh, son of a bitch. Stupid thing. Stupid. This case is not a standard width. You know, one day I'm going to build a little tower that'll have shelves and it'll hold this stuff up. And then I'll be able to actually plug stuff in without having to hold on to the device so that I don't push the device further into the desk. That's a project for another day. Live to shoot another day. Why the song? Okay, so Run the Jewels did this great song, and it's a battle rap where they say the most foul things to each other that they could possibly come up with. And it's got a nice little video, wonderfully produced. They did it with DJ Shadow. They did the whole song with DJ Shadow, I mean. The first line is... Oh, that was the wrong one. The first line of the rap is, "Picture this, I'm a bag of dicks, put me to your lips." And it is the least foul thing in the entire song. Car companies heard this song and went, this is it. This is the song that we're going to use in everything. And so I'm sitting here flipping through channels and I hear The DJ Shadow backing beat to the song. And I'm like, Chrysler, what are you doing? Do you know this song? Do you know anything about this song? We only use macro controllers. You mean ladder logic? We watched the logic gates change state. Yeah, you mean ladder logic. Ladder logic is a 12-volt logic that used to be used on things like elevators, and it is a macro controller. It is as close as you can get to the idea of a macro controller. You have a relay that'll flip, and then it'll stay energized, so it'll stay flipped until something else happens that opens a relay that unflips your relay. And so using that type of thing, you can create some pretty complex logic in a very large area. I need another sip of this stuff. Oh my God, I've run dry. And so if you go into like the part of the elevator that has that houses all the ladder logic, it goes as things are functioning. You can hear everything chattering away and doing its stuff. What's up, Mono ID? I just don't understand these car companies heard this song and we're like, this is perfect. This is it. This is what we're going to use in all of our commercials. TV car commercials are like the worst nowadays. Every single thing you're looking at is 3D rendered. That's amazing. All right. Hydration. This isn't even that cold. It looks like it's ice cold on the thermal imager. It's not even that cold. All right, let's see. I need a ground wire that's just long enough. Well, we can use a short one, I guess. Okay. The ideal light just turned on. Next project idea, chat-controlled beverage dispenser. Absolutely not. I've seen it happen before. There was a creator way back in the day that had a wine dispenser that chat could control. No way. No, not a chance. Not even a little chance. I mean, like, no way at all. Oh, here's an interesting thing. How have I not blown up the Raspberry Pi yet? Oh, because that's going to ground. Okay. I was like, well, okay, 3 volts. Uh-oh. Five volts. Maybe that didn't make such a good connection. My 3 volts has been connected to 5 volts. Why didn't I see this, and why didn't my Raspberry Pi blow up? Get this out of here. Now nobody gets 3 volts. What the F? What the... Oh my God. That was like... That should have blown up the Raspberry Pi. Maybe that's why everybody was getting warm. Well, we're going to give it external 5 volts now. Bum, 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 bum. Maybe by virtue of the length of stuff that it had to go through, it wasn't quite up there in the voltages yet. Maybe. Minus goes to minus, plus goes to plus. I do not know. I do not know. Now, before I give this thing 9 volts, I've got to adjust my adjustable power supply. And then this will all sit just like so. There you go. Okay, down from 9 volts. V98765. I don't think I'm going to give it the 0.1. I don't think it deserves that. I also don't know how this is still functioning, because presumably I gave it 5 volts. But, okay, now everything is nice, and it should be able to handle this. Whoa, it's drawing 3 amps? What the okay, something's messed up. Something's messed up. Why did it draw 3 amps? Plus, going to this thing, going to plus, going to this thing. Unless I shorted it out over here. Ooh, I hope I didn't blow anything up. We were careful about the pinout, and we know that that one definitely goes to ground. Did I mess up my VCC and my VDD? That's possible. Because when I unhook this thing, everybody works again. So it's probably me. 5V0 going to the bus. Ground to ground. 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 5V0 going out to the bus. The bus loops around with these two wires down here. Those do loop. Okay. I think that was Noise Brew and the Wine Brought. Yeah, wasn't that short-lived? I didn't like how it was dispensing drinks from like 3D printed plastic stuff. It could have used some silicone hoses and solenoids. Couple dollars. But if it works, it works. VCC and ground, VCC and ground. Let's double check these two pins here. Double check those two pins and make sure that they are wired correctly. So on this thing, pin 1 is ground, pin 2 is VCC. That's on the LCD. On the adapter, whoa, wow, ouch. Okay, this is exactly what we need to program it. What I need is a pin out from this. Ground VCC. Ground is on the outside. Around the outside. Ground going to pin... Oh, it's backwards. Wait, double check. Tweezies. Tweezies. Check with the tweezies. This guy. What in the hell's going by outside? Sounds like a helicopter. Okay, they're wired backwards. There's like a helicopter going by out there. Have they finally found me? Get my gun. They finally found us, the feds. That's the feds. They got their helicopter. You'll never get my plants. Well, this is why we wired it funky, so that we had a little bit of extra room. It's possible that this whole thing could be powered off of USB still, considering. No, I don't want to mix up these two again. I don't want them to get involved with each other. It's a little hasty, but I guess it'll work. I think he was a COVID streamer. When COVID let up, he got a new job. Oh, I see. That happens. Life happens. Life and stuff and life. Seen him pop up a few times in chat, but I don't think he has streamed since 22. Oh, wow. Noise Brew, I remember the name, so I don't think I've seen him pop in my chat. Maybe so. Maybe that was years ago, though. Yeah, those are crazy times, man. Everybody was playing Among Us. I had some good times playing Among Us. Everybody got lives, and they left the rest of us behind, though. All right, so if I turn this on, it should now not heat up to super duper degrees, and the Raspberry Pi should function as well as the LCD instead of opposed to. Now that we've got our ground and our VCC hooked up, hopefully we didn't damage anything, because it's very possible that when you do that kind of thing, you damage stuff. Things don't take kindly to reverse current, generally. I'm gonna put a little jumper over this, a little breadboard jumper, so that I can hold that wire down. Doesn't really matter what length, as long as it's the shorter ones are fine. These wires are kind of big, so maybe just a blue will be enough. Just clean it up a little bit. And also hold all my parts together, because we're gonna, there may be periods of time that we're not working on this, and coming back to it, I want it to be a little bit more neat than before. So, okay, and eventually I'll, make a thing for it, for like a wiring harness. But, okay, so now if I power up, I shouldn't draw 3 amps. It's 200 milliamps. It's so much different than what we got before. Okay, so now that all works. Good. Now we're back to the tutorial, and I may or may not have a hardware issue on my hands. No red LED over here, though. All the current that it could possibly want at 4.98 volts is going through there. What I did is when I powered it up, I saw the voltage drop from 5 volts, which is not good. I mean, 4.98 that's okay. That's just the power supply self-reporting. It's supposed to be at 5 volts and it can go up to 6 amps. But if that voltage level drops, you know something is probably drawing a little bit too much current. And so it's time to emergency turn everything off. And especially looking at the number below, the voltage drop was 3 point something or other. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. That is very wrong. Okay, so back to lesson 6. We are going to be, well, let's just put this in there. There we go, import time, import LCD. We'll put that in. We got to log back in with WinSCP. Are we technically logged in? No, we got to log back in. Try reconnecting. All right, static IP addresses. So we're back in. We've got our 1, 2, 3 test. It's got all the German stuff. Oh, no, it does not have all of this stuff. We didn't even save this, though. So if I just paste this in, it might just be as easy as running this. What are we saying on it? Hello World and then Sunfounder. Import LCD pin 2 027 true. Where are we telling it how many lines it has? And let's see, I2C address and backlight status. Using Raspberry Pi revision 2, I2C address is 27. I think they're using a similar hardware to us. Let's just double check. Where's the window? Oh yeah, they're using one of these boards. So I2C LCD 1602. Time library for more detail about the LCD. Initialize the LCD. 27 in time. Hello world. I guess it'll just try. Okay, so that's all we want it to do then. So I'm going to hit save. And because we open this through WinSCP, when I hit save, it'll save it in a particular directory and then upload it to the Raspberry Pi. So there we go. Now that's in. We can go over here to where it says open session in PuTTY. And so it'll deal with all the logins for us. And here we are. So I just need to see what's in here. I know, ls. ls, and so the folder's testpi. So cd t tab testpi. And then Python 3 1 tab, and it'll fill in the rest for me. Run this. No module named LCD. Dun, dun, dun. So Python 3 does not have a module named LCD, so we need to install it. Where are we going to get that from? Let's go back to our tutorial. I thought there would be something already installed. Certainly don't need a Raspberry Pi 5 for this, but let's see. Import time module for creating delays and the LCD module for controlling the LCD. For more detail about the LCD library, please refer to this thing. And so we've got LCD 1602 I2C, sudo apt-get installed I2C tools. Okay, so sudo, so we're back to command line stuff, which is where I like to be. Sudo apt-get install I2C. Some people call it I squared C. That's 12C. I2C dash tools. Done. Building the tree, done. Reading state, done. Doing a bunch of stuff I'm not going to say, done. I want to continue. Simple as, right? I think I saw in Laboratory 424's chat when Lab 424 did some streams between secret projects and 23. I see. I keep debating about whether or not I should get a lab coat while doing these streams. I know lab coats are great because you can't stain them and all that stuff, but I see too many of these electronics streamers lean into the whole lab coat aesthetic. Should wear a leather jacket, then surely people will think I'm cool. No. CEOs, take heed. You don't automatically look cool if you put on a leather jacket or a sport coat over a t-shirt. Sudo apt-get install Python SMBus. I don't know whether or not I'm really going to need that, but I guess I'll just get it anyway. These are all tiny little programs. The Raspberry Pi was always the tool that gets in the way of the work for me. I would have to do the same thing if I was doing a microcontroller, though. I'd have to download the library that would help me use the LCD. Why not a leather apron? I've actually got one over there. Sitting right over there. True, I can keep tools that I'm using in my pocket. Leather apron, I don't know. Maybe I should wear like a frilly apron. That would be a little bit better. Leather aprons for like somebody welding and stuff. We're sitting here, programming computers and soldering stuff together. I don't know, the solder guys that do soldering, what do they wear? People that do solder. A lot of people do soldering. Okay, SM bus we have. Let's go back to our tutorial that's attached to the other tutorial. So enable I2C. So sudo raspi config. So that's going to pull up its own window. Oops. Dash. And then interface, and then I2C. Yes. The ARM I2C interface is enabled. Okay. What next? What are next? Determine the I2C detect -Y0 default. Okay, so let's finish this. Let us finish. And then I2C detect yes 0. Error, you suck. I2C detect -Y0. I2C detect default is 3F, but this said no such file or directory. Do I need to restart? Reboot. All right, so I'm going to reboot and give that a minute. Yeah, all you wear is like an ESD protection. Tend to add unnecessary complications to the project by adding CAN bus for no reason. Other than that, you can. True, true. I used to work in an electric assembly job. We wore the ESD coats, ESD foot straps, and ESD wrist straps. Oh, it's dev/I2C and see what's available. I'm letting it reboot so it can make its own folder structures and stuff. I don't know what the if I have to run that command from a particular location. All right, let's reconnect. Pull this back up. Does it remember? It does. So do I have to cd, I don't know, cd dot dot? How do I go back a directory? Not let me do that anymore? Ah, here we go. Go back further. There we go. cd dev. List dev. All my friends are here. I2C 1 and 2. cd I2C-1 list, not a directory. Still not a directory. What am I doing wrong? List. Oh. Oh, those not lists? Why is it taking me to weird? I mean, we're already in cd dev. I don't think I need that entire structure on it, do I? That's just a watchdog. Yeah, the system files. So what do I need to like open them? to look at I2C. I forget how all this stuff works. Okay, so let's go back. And run our program. New module named LCD. What the butt? We installed it. Oh, are we not there yet? Are we still not? We don't have LCD. Blah, 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 blah. In this lesson, deploying LCDs. Sudo apt-get LCD or something? No, that's in Python. It's a Python 3 thing. Import time from LCD, import LCD. I mean, we cut and paste this in there, so. ls dash? Is that a different way to do it? Oh, Python SMBus install failed? I didn't see it fail. I was going through Windows too quickly. Where's that? I refuse to type a command twice. apt-get LCD? I don't think so. No installation can. Dependency tree, blah, blah, blah. Package Python SMBus is not available, but is referred to by another package. This may mean that the package is missing, has been obsoleted, or is only available from another source. Cool. Thank you, man. I really appreciate helping out. Fuck. How old is this tutorial? They're using a Raspberry Pi 5, so by all means, it should be fresh install source. Sterling Beast and LCD 1602 I2C. Wait, that's not the Raspberry Pi stuff, right? Oh, this is install setup. I2C tools, Python SMBus, enable I2C, determine I2C. Do I need to apt-get this? I think so. So do I need to apt-get LCD 1602 I2C? Sudo apt-get install LCD 1602 capital I to capital C. Unable to locate package. No? Okay. Darn. I was hoping. Oh, maybe I need to do it that way. Yeah. That makes sense. So if I sudo apt-get install Python 3 SMBus. Probably kick me out for it not existing, right? What was all that? The following new package will be installed. Python 3 SMBus. Okay. Fetched. 11 kilobytes. Oh my god, my 16 gigabyte SD card is getting destroyed. Well, would you look at that? So the question is, do I need to install this LCD thing? I think I do. But for install setup, they just tell me to do this. So is it part of SMBus? Or it's probably going to say I2C is not a command. I2C detect. I2C detect Y and then 0. No, still doesn't work. So maybe in extrapolating, it would be... But why would it just be LCD? Would it be the whole title or sudo the command? I did. No, wait. Okay, sudo I2C detect Y 0. Try 2. Y1 or Y2. Yeah, none of that. You want me to do the whole directory on that? Okay. You guys know this stuff better than I did, for sure. Ah, it was the wrong. It said IWC. Error, I2C name doesn't match any present. Yeah, I know. I too. Ah, it hates it. I2C bus first name. Huh. Yeah. What if I try to run the code? Python 3, 1, 2, 3. It still doesn't have a module named LCD, so it's Y space 1. $27. 27. What are they? What the fuck? On 20. What the? What fuck? What? Huh? Okay, so Python 3 is not running anything. It's not running because it doesn't have this. And so I need to get this. Is the way that I get this by looking this up on Python 3. So if I do sudo apt-get install apt-get Python 3. What do we do before we put a dash on it? Try this. It's going to say it doesn't exist. Oh, there's way too much. Unable to locate package. Wait a minute. I think LCD is probably too generic, although I can try it. I don't think it'll be a 1602. Just Python 3 LCD. Oh, no, no, no. What in the world just happened there? I don't know. I'm going to say, can't find something crazy. LCD Studio. Wait, unable to locate package. This, that, and that. Okay, okay, hold on. Python 3 LCD. Yeah, because it made one giant command. So yeah, it's probably not going to be able to find this. I see. Yeah, so more to the point, it just can't find that. So the Python library for displaying text on the 1602 with I2C implemented on Raspberry Pi 3B. Do I need to give it like this whole address? For the GitHub thing. We're just trying to follow the tutorial and they launch into using from LCD, import LCD. I don't know where they're getting that from. Water level, vibration, ultrasonic, touch sensor, time of flight, temperature, rotary encoder, raindrop, no, pulse oximeter, no, potentiometer model. One of these might be an LCD. Maybe, and maybe that's where they went over it. Unless they say, maybe they have their own thing. Because we could have missed where they tell us about what we need to set up ahead of time. Can you use pip in Python 3? I don't know. You answer that question on your own. I don't know, maybe somebody in chat knows. Apt search Python. Okay, I'll try that. I have a glass of water sitting between me and the keyboard, so it's like kind of hard to type. Apt search Python 3 LCD. Working. Giant line of text. 77, 80, 83, 89, 93, 96. Really? Old stable. So, color spacious or Luma LCD, Luma.LCD. Library for interfacing with small LCD displays. Python 3-M pip install and then the package. Well, it appears like the LCD thing doesn't really exist. But now we need to install from like the GitHub page. And I think I've done this before with GitHub, but it's been a long time and I don't remember how to do it because this is what's been called for. Maybe, hold on, 1602. The tiny keyboard does not help me when I'm in console. I keep hitting buttons that are right next to other buttons. Copy the lcd.py file onto your project directory. I suppose I can do that. Yeah, because it's not finding anything in relation to SD, whatever. So go to file. Or no, what do I want here? I want lcd.py. I don't want to read your code. I just simply want to download it. Where's the download button? Okay, so there's the download button. I'm glad they got their heads out of their own asses and finally put the download button on GitHub. For us troglodytes that don't feel like learning something and they also don't feel like having all of these smug programmers lorded over them. Oh, you don't know where this is. Check out RPLCD package on pip. I mean, this will get us there too, but let's just check. Without on pip, though. I hate this game. I played it many times myself. There's like 7 different ways to solve something on like a Raspberry Pi with Python and Linux. There's like 5 different ways to solve a problem, and you will find every single way sounds like the other ways, but they're fundamentally different, and you can't do anything about it. But then wouldn't I have to do from RPLCD? Import LCD. Doing it this way, I can just reference this in conjunction with the thing. So, and I've already done it, so I'm gonna do it this way. Ready? Look at this. Drag and drop. There. Oh, it timed out because their program has timing on it. Get back over to the console window and run it again. Bag of what? Bag of, wait, come back. Bag of what? Bag of what? Oh, what's going on there? Some kind of an error. Hold on. Yeah, so just dragging that library into the folder. Very rudimentary way to do it, but it's fine, whatever. Why the 3rd time I ran it, it ran into an issue. Clear self. Line 57, LCD byte self. Bus right. Okay, so now we have something where we can sneak LCD commands into our various pieces of Python code to give us either statuses or just give us like affirmations. It can say, you know what, you're looking pretty good today. Or we can actually have it give us data about stuff that's going on. Yes, I know. Well, did it stop in the middle of the display? Because yeah, that would be it. I just have to figure out what the command is for giving it 20 lines, because this thing has 20 lines. Yeah, there's more lines where it could have fit. It just doesn't know those are there. And then this thing gets the F out of Dodge real quick. It ends the program really quickly. All right, so there it is. We've hooked up our LCD. I wanted to get to LEDs today. Maybe next stream we will work on LEDs, and then eventually we'll make IEDs. Wait, no, we're not going to do that. We can't do that. That's a horrible thing. No, okay. Anyway, we will get to LEDs soon. So when we do LEDs, we could potentially use the LCD to tell us stuff that's going on in our program. And then this, I would like to get running some kind of an ambient light show. I don't think we're going to go through the incredible complexity of importing Project M and getting that running with LEDs, but yeah, then if we don't do the IED thing, then we just might end up with ED. So yeah, I want to get to making this thing do stuff. It won't really be displaying anything too crazy. It'll just do patterns and stuff. I would like to get it running Project M eventually. That might be more of a Raspberry Pi 5 job than a 3 job. But either way, our little test setup is expanding. We might want to just kind of tape this to some kind of a board in the future so that I can put all this stuff out and test around with it. But yeah, we got it working. We got it all wired in. We've got all of our connections there nice and permanently. We didn't blow up a Raspberry Pi somehow. I don't understand to this day. I will never understand how we did not blow up a Raspberry Pi, because we have 5 volts connected to 3 volts that should blow up your Raspberry Pi. I guess 5 volts is kind of an input. And so I don't know. Putting 5 volts into the 3 volt line should absolutely eliminate your Raspberry Pi. So I think we lucked out. Maybe this thing drew all the current first. Yeah, no, we're not doing that. Okay. Cool. I guess it is the time for me to do the end card. So here's the end card. I will be back in 1 day, 19 hours, 54 minutes, and 8 seconds. And until then, you can catch me on the Discord. Oh, which isn't... Okay, whatever. You can catch me on the Discord. Most of you know how to get there. There's the Discord command and chat. Yeah, we'll come back and we'll either do Raspberry Pi or synthesizer stuff. It depends on what we feel like doing. We do need to do a hashtag AutoCAD ad, and I think maybe that's what we'll do next time. We'll do the hashtag AutoCAD ad, and we'll start printing. We'll start designing all of the 3D printed stuff that's going to hold my whole computer up on the wall. And I've already got all the computer parts in CAD. That already exists. So we'll rearrange stuff and we'll get it in position, and then I can build 3D prints around that in order to attach everything up. It'd be a pretty cool project. I will catch you later. Let's see if... I don't think there's anybody on my radar. That's all the big boys in streaming. CosmoQuestix is doing stuff. Website update. I don't know what that's about. So if you guys get a chance, maybe we'll shout out CosmoQuestix. Let's try that. Shout out CosmoQuest Texas. No, it's one T. Cosmo Quest X. I think I got it right. Oh yeah, I capitalized it for me after that. Cool. So catch me on the Discord. I will be around. I will see you guys on Thursday. And yeah. No, I'm not. End. I'm ending. Where's the button?